Christmas meant something different when you had nothing. Not the carols or the presents or the decorated trees you've seen in old paintings. That came later. For now, imagine London in 1850. 5 million souls packed into streets so narrow the fog couldn't escape. And somewhere in the East End, in a room you'd mistake for a closet, a boy is about to wake up on Christmas Eve. Here's what it was actually like to survive that night when you were one of the forgotten. If you're finding this story interesting so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing how far and wide these stories travel. Now, while you're wrapped up in your blankets tonight, warm and fed with that glass of water sitting right there on your nightstand, think about this. That simple comfort, that basic warmth you're feeling right now is something people would have killed for in the London we're about to visit together. So let's go there. Let's go back. The cold wakes you before anything else, not gradually either. It hits you all at once, sharp as broken glass, because the fire went out sometime in the night and nobody had the coal to restart it. Your name is William, you're 9 years old, and today is December the 24th, 1850. Your eyes open to darkness. The room smells of mildew and damp wool and something else, something harder to name. It's the smell of too many bodies packed into too small a space, of clothes that haven't been properly washed in weeks, of breath hanging visible in air cold enough to hurt your lungs. Your mother is pressed against your back, her thin arm draped across you, and your younger sister is curled against your chest like a cat seeking heat. This is your bed. Well, it's not really a bed at all. It's a straw mattress, maybe 3 inches thick, stuffed so full of dried grass and old rags that it crinkles every time you move. The straw has gone flat in places and pokes through the ticking in others. If you were being honest, you've slept on harder things. There was that winter 2 years ago when the family lived on the street for nearly a month, a doorway in Spitalfields. Your father had just died of the cholera, and your mother couldn't pay the rent alone, so the 3 of you huddled in an alley wrapped in a single blanket that smelled of horse, while snow fell and fell and fell. The mattress, flat and poking as it is, feels like luxury compared to that. You lie still for a moment, listening. London is already waking up. You can hear the clatter of carriage wheels on cobblestones somewhere in the distance, muffled by fog but unmistakable. There's the cry of a milkmaid, her voice thin and reedy in the cold. Mio, Mio, that's her call, short for milk below. Though most people don't even notice anymore. The sound has become part of the city's rhythm, like the church bells or the rumble of the railway. Your breath makes little clouds in the darkness. The room you share with your mother and sister is in a building that was probably nice once, maybe 50 years ago, when the Huguenot silk weavers lived here, and the neighbourhood was something other than what it is now. You've heard stories about that, about how these houses used to have proper families in them, 1 family per floor, with servants and good furniture and windows that didn't rattle every time the wind blew. Now there are 11 families in this building, 11 crammed into rooms that were never meant to hold so many bodies. The walls have been divided with cheap wooden partitions that don't quite reach the ceiling, so you can hear everything. The baby crying 3 rooms over. The man coughing on the floor above, that wet, rattling cough that means the consumption is taking hold. The couple arguing downstairs, their voices rising and falling in a rhythm as familiar as the church bells. You know all of them. You know Mrs. Hennessy, who lost her husband in a factory accident last spring and now takes in washing to feed her 5 children. You know Mr. Potts, the one-armed sailor who drinks his entire pay before the week is out and then begs for bread. You know the Murphy family, fresh from Ireland, still speaking with accents so thick you can barely understand them, still with that haunted look in their eyes that all the Irish seem to carry. You know what that look means now. You've heard the stories, the famine, the potato blight, the ships crammed with dying people, packed so tight that the healthy ones couldn't even move away from the sick. The Murphys lost 4 children on the crossing. 4, and they're the lucky ones. They made it. Your stomach growls. This is the part of the morning you hate most, this hollow ache that sits in your belly like a stone, reminding you that dinner last night was thin gruel and a crust of bread so hard you had to dip it in water before you could chew it, reminding you that breakfast probably won't be any better if there's breakfast at all. Your mother works at a laundry 6 days a week, starting before dawn and finishing long after dark. She comes home with her hands raw and cracked, sometimes bleeding, the skin so red it looks like she's been dipping them in fire instead of wash water. She makes 4 shillings a week. 4 shillings. Out of that comes the rent, which is 2 shillings for this single room with its leaking ceiling and its view of the brick wall next door. Out of that comes coal, when there's coal to be had. Out of that comes food. There's never enough for all of it. So you work too. You've been working since you were 6, back when your father was still alive and the family lived in a slightly better room in a slightly better neighbourhood. Not good, mind you. Never good, but better. Your father worked at the docks, loading and unloading ships until the day a crate slipped from its chains and crushed his leg. The infection set in 3 days later. He was dead in a week. That's how fast things can change. One accident, one slip, one moment of bad luck, and suddenly you're not just poor, you're desperate. You push the thin blanket aside and sit up slowly, trying not to wake your mother. She needs the sleep more than you do. She was up past midnight last night, mending a shirt for one of the neighbours in exchange for a few potatoes. Her needlework in the candlelight, the way her face looked in the flickering flame, hollow-cheeked and tired, but still somehow beautiful. You remember thinking she looked older than she should. She's only 28, but the work has aged her, worn her down like water wearing at a stone. The floor is cold under your bare feet. Of course it is. Everything is cold. The walls are cold to the touch, sweating with condensation that freezes into tiny patterns of ice near the window. The window itself is stuffed with rags where the glass has cracked, but the wind still whistles through, carrying that distinctive London smell, coal smoke and horse manure, and the faint, ever-present stink of the river, the Thames. You can't see it from here, but you can always smell it, especially in summer when the heat makes the stench unbearable and people faint in the streets and newspapers write about the great stink as though it's some kind of joke instead of something that makes you gag every time you walk past the water. The river is where the sewers empty, it's where the factories dump their waste. It's where the poor bathe and wash their clothes because there's no running water in the slums and the pumps on the street corners often run dry. People drink from that river sometimes when they're desperate enough. You've done it once, when the thirst got bad enough that you didn't care anymore. You scooped the brown water in your cupped hands and drank, trying not to think about what was floating in it, trying not to look too closely at the surface. You were sick for 3 days afterward, shaking with fever in this very room while your mother mopped your forehead with a rag and prayed to a god she wasn't sure was listening. You haven't drunk from the Thames since. Now you creep across the room to where your clothes are piled in the corner. Clothes is a generous word for them. You have one pair of trousers, patched so many times they're more patch than original fabric. You have a shirt that used to be white and is now a sort of greyish yellow, the colour of old newspaper. You have a jacket with no buttons and a hole under the left arm that your mother keeps meaning to fix but never quite gets around to. You have no socks, no underclothes, no hat. You have shoes. This is important. A lot of children in the rookeries don't have shoes, especially in winter. They walk barefoot on the frozen cobblestones, their feet turning blue, the skin cracking and bleeding. You've seen children lose toes to frostbite. You've seen children die from infections that started in their feet and spread upward until their whole bodies went hot with fever and they stopped moving. Your shoes are too small. They pinch your toes and rub blisters on your heels, but they're shoes. They're yours. Your mother traded 3 days' wages for them at a second-hand stall in Petticoat Lane, and every time you put them on, you think about that, about what she gave up so you wouldn't lose your feet to the cold. You dress quickly, shivering, your teeth chattering so hard you're afraid you'll wake your sister. She doesn't wake. Children learn to sleep through anything in the rookeries, the noise, the cold, the hunger pangs that twist your stomach in the middle of the night. You learn to sleep because sleep is the only escape you have, the only time when you're not hungry, not cold, not afraid, the only time when you can dream about something other than this. Your sister's name is Emma. She's 6 years old and small for her age, the kind of small that comes from not getting enough food during the years when a body is supposed to be growing. Her hair is brown like yours, like your mother's, but lighter at the ends where the sun catches it. When she smiles, she has a gap where her 2 front teeth used to be. She lost them last month and she keeps the teeth in a little cloth bag under the mattress like they're treasures. You love her more than anything in the world. That's the thing they don't tell you about poverty. It's not just misery. It's not just suffering. There's love too, fierce, protective love that burns so hot it can almost keep you warm on nights when the fire goes out. You'd die for Emma. You'd steal for her. You'd do things you don't want to think about if it meant she had enough to eat. You hope it never comes to that. The door to your room sticks. It always sticks, swollen with damp, and you have to put your shoulder against it and push hard to get it open. The hallway beyond is even colder than the room, if that's possible. A single candle gutters in a wall sconce, casting jumping shadows on the water-stained wallpaper. Someone has left a chamber pot at the top of the stairs. The smell is sharp and unmistakable. There's no privy inside the building, just a single outdoor toilet in the yard, shared by all 11 families, which means at least 50 people. In summer, it overflows. In winter, the waste freezes and accumulates until someone breaks it up with a shovel. You try not to think about it too much. You try not to think about a lot of things. You make your way down the stairs, stepping carefully to avoid the broken step third from the bottom, past the ground floor where the landlord's agent lives, the man who collects the rent every Saturday and throws families out on the street when they can't pay, past the front door, which doesn't quite close all the way, letting in a knife edge of cold air that cuts right through your jacket, and then you're outside, London. The fog is thick this morning, thick enough that you can barely see across the narrow street. Gas lamps flicker in the murk, casting circles of yellowish light that seem to float in the grey. The cobblestones are slick with a thin layer of ice, treacherous underfoot. And you walk carefully, one hand trailing along the brick wall for balance. The street is already coming to life. Costermongers are setting up their barrows, arranging cabbages and turnips and bruised apples in careful pyramids. A woman is selling hot potatoes from a tin box with a fire in the bottom, her voice cutting through the fog. Hot taters for a cold morning. The smell is incredible. Your mouth waters so hard it almost hurts. You don't have a penny for hot potatoes. You don't have a penny for anything. Not yet. This is your job, what you do to help your family survive. You're a crossing sweeper, which means you stand at the corner of a busy street and sweep the horse manure and mud out of the way so wealthy people can cross without getting their fine shoes dirty. It's not much of a job. It's barely a job at all, but on a good day you can make a few pence, enough to buy a loaf of bread, enough to keep the family eating for one more day. Today is Christmas Eve. You know what that means. More people on the streets than usual, more carriages, more horses, more gentlemen and ladies in their fine clothes rushing from shop to shop, arms full of packages wrapped in bright paper. The wealthy are in a generous mood around Christmas. Some of them, the ones who've read their Dickens, who've heard the story of Scrooge and the ghost of Christmas yet to come, who feel a little pang of guilt when they see a ragged child shivering in the cold. You've learned to play that guilt like a fiddle. You know how to look up at a passing gentleman with big, hopeful eyes. You know how to duck your head and murmur, "Thank you, sir," in a voice that trembles just enough to tug at the heartstrings. You know how to be pathetic, because pathetic is what pays. Pathetic is what puts bread on the table. You hate it. You hate every second of it, but you do it anyway, because what's the alternative? The workhouse? You've heard the stories about the workhouse, the gruel so thin you can see the bottom of the bowl, the endless hours of picking oakum until your fingers bleed. The family separated, husbands from wives, parents from children, as though love itself is something that needs to be punished. No. Not the workhouse. Not ever. You reach your corner just as the church bells begin to ring. 6 o'clock. The sound rolls out across the city, low and sonorous, marking the start of another day of cold and hunger and desperate scrambling for survival, another day of watching the wealthy walk by in their warm coats and leather boots, their breathmaking clouds in the freezing air, their minds on Christmas trees and roasted goose and presents wrapped in ribbon. You pick up your broom. It's a homemade thing, really, just a bundle of twigs tied to a stick with a piece of rope. The bristles are worn down to nothing in places, and the whole thing wobbles when you sweep, but it does the job. It pushes the muck aside, carves a path through the filth, makes a clean space for the gentry to cross. The first carriage of the morning comes rattling down the street. You take a breath, the cold air burns your lungs, and then you start to sweep. The horse manure steams gently in the freezing air, fresh enough that you can feel the warmth radiating from it as your broom pushes it aside. There's something almost funny about that. The horses of the wealthy, eating their fill of oats and hay, produce more heat in their droppings than you'll feel all day. You've thought about it before, in a bitter sort of way, how the waist of the rich is warmer than the homes of the poor. The carriage slows as it approaches the crossing. Through the fog, you can see a face in the window, a woman, middle-aged with a bonnet trimmed in velvet and what looks like a fur collar around her neck. She's looking out at the street with that particular expression you've come to recognize. Not disgust, exactly. More like the way someone might look at an interesting insect. Curious, but distant, as though you're something to be observed rather than a person to be acknowledged. You sweep faster, clearing a path. The carriage lurches across, the wheels throwing up droplets of dirty water that spatter against your trousers. The woman doesn't look at you again. The carriage doesn't stop. No coin comes flying from the window. No voice calls out a Merry Christmas or a God bless you. That's fine. That happens more often than not. You've learned not to expect anything. That way disappointment doesn't hit quite so hard. The fog shifts, swirls. Another carriage appears. And another. The street is getting busier now, filling with the rumble of wheels and the clatter of hooves and the shouts of drivers. Make way, make way! A cart loaded with cabbages nearly clips you as it passes, the driver cursing at his horse, his face red with cold. A gentleman in a top hat hurries past on foot, his walking stick tapping against the cobblestones in a rapid rhythm, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Nobody looks at you. That's the strange thing about being poor in London. You become invisible. People's eyes slide right past you, as though you're part of the scenery, no more important than a lamppost or a pile of rubbish. They don't see you. They don't want to see you. Seeing you would mean acknowledging that you exist, and acknowledging that you exist would mean feeling something. Guilt, perhaps, or pity. Or that uncomfortable squirm in the stomach that comes from knowing your comfort is built on someone else's suffering. Easier not to look, easier to pretend the poor simply aren't there. You sweep, the morning wears on. Your arms ache, your feet are going numb inside your too small shoes. The cold has crept into your bones, settled there like an unwelcome guest, and you can't shake it no matter how fast you work. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, visible in the freezing air, and your fingers have turned that particular shade of greyish purple that means you need to warm them soon or risk losing feeling altogether. But you can't stop, not yet. The pennies have started to come. A gentleman with mutton chop whiskers and a kind face, a lady in a green dress who smiled at you as she crossed, a young man who looked like a clerk, his collar stiff with starch, who pressed a halfpenny into your palm and said, "Merry Christmas, lad," in a voice that sounded like he meant it. You have 5p now. 5p. That's enough for a small loaf of bread. That's enough for a tin of tea. That's enough to make this one of your better days, and the morning isn't even half over yet. The thought warms you more than any fire could. 5p means your family will eat tonight. 5p means your mother's face will relax for just a moment when you hand over the coins, that worried crease between her eyebrows smoothing out, her lips curving into something that isn't quite a smile but is close enough. 5p means Emma might get her extra crust, might go to bed with her stomach not quite so empty. You're thinking about this, about what you'll buy with the money, when you hear the singing. It comes from somewhere down the street, rising above the clatter and the shouts and the endless rumble of wheels, voices lifted in harmony, weaving together in a melody you recognise from church. From those rare Sundays when your mother takes you to services and you sit in the back pew and try not to fall asleep during the sermon. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day. Carol singers, you stop sweeping for a moment, just listening. The song fills the foggy air, beautiful and haunting, and for just a second you forget about the cold. You forget about the hunger gnawing at your belly. You forget about everything except the music. The pure, simple joy of voices raised in celebration. Then the song ends, and the fog closes in again. And you remember that you're standing on a street corner in the East End of London, surrounded by horse manure and mud, while somewhere in the West End the wealthy are decorating their Christmas trees with candles and dried fruit and sweets, hanging presents from the branches, gathering around the fire to drink punch and sing carols and pretend that everyone in the world is as warm and fed as they are. You pick up your broom. And you keep sweeping. The fog lifts a little around mid-morning, and that's when the real crowds start. You've been at your corner for maybe 4 hours now. Your broom has worn down another inch, the twigs splaying out at the ends like fingers reaching for something just out of grasp. Your collection of coins has grown to 7p halfpenny, which is better than you'd hoped, better than most days. A woman in a blue cloak gave you a whole penny and told you to buy yourself something warm. A vicar pressed a halfpenny into your hand and blessed you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, his breath smelling faintly of communion wine. You thanked them all. You always thank them, even when you don't feel thankful, even when what you really feel is a kind of burning shame that sits in your chest like a hot coal. But shame doesn't fill bellies. Pride doesn't keep your sister from crying in the night. So you swallow it down and you smile and you say, "God bless you, sir," or "Thank you kindly, ma'am." And you mean it. You do, because they didn't have to stop. They could have walked right past you like everyone else. Most people do. Around 10 o'clock, you leave your corner. This is a risk. Another crossing sweeper might take your spot while you're gone, might claim it as his own, and then you'd have to find somewhere else to work or fight him for it. Fighting isn't something you're good at. You're small for your age, thin in a way that makes old women click their tongues and shake their heads, and the bigger boys know it. They can see it in the way you hold yourself, in the narrowness of your shoulders, in the careful way you move. But you have to leave. You have to see the markets, not to buy anything. You don't have that kind of money, and even if you did, you'd take it straight home to your mother. No, you're going to the markets because Christmas Eve in London is something that has to be witnessed. It's a spectacle, a performance, a mad swirl of colour and sound and smell that happens once a year and then vanishes like smoke. And because, if you're honest with yourself, you're hungry. Not just in your stomach, hungry in your eyes, hungry in your soul, hungry for something beautiful in a life that rarely offers beauty. The markets give you that. For an hour or two you can walk among the stalls and pretend you're someone else, someone who belongs there. Someone who might actually buy a hot pie or a twist of roasted chestnuts or a sprig of holly to hang above the door. The streets get more crowded as you head west. People flow around you like water around a stone, not quite touching, not quite acknowledging your existence. Gentlemen in tall hats, ladies with their skirts held above the muck, showing glimpses of petticoat and ankle, clerks in their black coats, hurrying on errands for their employers. Servants carrying parcels wrapped in brown paper and string, their arms full, their faces red with exertion. Everyone is going somewhere. Everyone has purpose. You slip between them, small and quick, keeping to the edges of the crowd. You've learned how to move in London, how to make yourself narrow, how to dodge and weave, how to find the gaps in the flow of bodies. It's a skill like reading or arithmetic, except nobody teaches it to you. You just learn, because learning is the difference between getting where you need to go and getting trampled underfoot. The first thing you hear is the singing. Not carol singers this time. These are the street sellers, and their songs are different. Each one has a cry, a kind of melody, a way of calling out their wares that rises above the noise of the crowd. You've heard them all your life, these London cries, and you know them like you know your own heartbeat. Fresh holly, get your mistletoe right here. That's a woman's voice, thin and reedy, coming from somewhere up ahead. You can't see her yet, but you can picture her, wrapped in a shawl, probably Irish judging by the accent, with bundles of green piled in a basket at her feet, holly with its sharp leaves and red berries, mistletoe with its pale, waxy fruit, the kissing bough some people call it. You hang it in the doorway and anyone who stands beneath it can be kissed. You've never stood beneath mistletoe. You've never been kissed by anyone except your mother and your sister. Hot pies, warm pies for a cold night. That voice is deeper, rougher, belonging to a man with a tray strapped to his chest. You can smell them now, the pies. Meat pies, probably. Mutton, if you're lucky. More likely it's offal, the bits of the animal that nobody else wants, ground up and baked in a crust that's mostly lard. Doesn't matter, they smell incredible. Your stomach clenches so hard it actually hurts. You keep walking. Kissing bones for sale. Kissing bones. That's a strange one. Took you years to figure out what kissing bones were. Turns out they're the wishbones from chickens and geese, saved up and sold to people who can't afford a whole bird but still want to pull a bone apart and make a wish. Two people take hold, one on each side, and they pull until it snaps. Whoever gets the bigger piece gets their wish. You wonder what you'd wish for if you had a kissing bone. Food, probably, or warmth. Or for your father to still be alive, for everything to go back to the way it was before. Even though you know that's not how wishes work, the past is gone. You can't pull it back, no matter how hard you tug. The market opens up before you like a mouth. Stalls crowd both sides of the narrow street, crammed so close together that their awnings nearly touch overhead. Canvas and wood and whatever else could be cobbled together to make a shelter from the weather, all of it draped in evergreen boughs and bits of ribbon and anything that might catch the eye of a passing customer. The noise is tremendous, sellers shouting over each other, trying to be heard, their voices blending into a kind of roar that fills your head and pushes out everything else. Finest geese in London, madam. Fresh this morning they are. That's the poulterer's stall, right at the entrance, and you stop to look. The geese hang in rows from hooks along the front, their necks dangling, their feathers still attached, their dead eyes staring at nothing. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, fat birds with breasts as big as your head, their skin pale and slightly waxy in the grey light. The smell is overwhelming, that particular smell of raw poultry mixed with sawdust and blood. A woman is haggling with the seller. "That one," she says, pointing at a goose near the end of the row. "That large one looks perfect for the feast." "An excellent choice, madam." The poulterer reaches up with a practised hand, unhooks the bird, holds it up for inspection. £8 if she's an ounce. Feed a family of 10. This one will. How much? 4 shillings 6pence, and worth every penny. 4 shillings 6pence. You do the math in your head. That's more than your mother makes in a week, more than your entire family will spend on food this month for one bird, one single bird that will be eaten in an afternoon and then forgotten. The woman doesn't even flinch. She reaches into her purse, pulls out the coins, counts them into the poulterer's hand. He wraps the goose in paper, ties it with string, hands it over with a little bow. "Merry Christmas, madam. And to you." She walks away, the goose tucked under her arm like it weighs nothing, like 4 shillings 6pence means nothing, and you watch her go with something that isn't quite envy and isn't quite anger. It's more complicated than that. It's the feeling of standing on one side of a glass window and watching someone else live a life you'll never have. You move deeper into the market, past the poulterers, past the fishmongers with its pyramids of oysters and eels writhing in wooden buckets, past the baker's stall where loaves of bread are stacked like bricks. The smell of fresh bread almost makes you dizzy. You haven't had bread that wasn't stale in weeks. The bread your family eats is the stuff the bakers can't sell, the loaves that have gone hard and tasteless, sold for a fraction of the price to people who can't afford anything better. You stop at a stall selling roasted chestnuts. The seller is an old man with a cart and a brazier, the coals glowing orange in the grey morning. He's roasting the chestnuts in a flat pan, stirring them with a wooden paddle, and the smell is like nothing else, sweet and smoky and warm. And the kind of smell that wraps around you like a blanket and makes you forget, just for a second, that you're cold and tired and hungry. "Penny a bag," the old man says, noticing you looking. You shake your head, just watching. He doesn't chase you off. Some sellers would. Some would tell you to move along, stop blocking the customers, get your dirty face away from their merchandise. But this one just shrugs and goes back to his stirring, and you stand there for a long moment, soaking in the warmth of the brazier, letting it seep into your frozen hands. "Thank you," you say, and you mean it. The old man grunts. "Merry Christmas, lad." You move on. The market is getting more crowded now, the press of bodies making it hard to walk. You have to squeeze through gaps, turn sideways, duck under the arms of people who don't even notice you're there. Everyone is talking, laughing, calling out to each other. A woman is arguing with a greengrocer over the price of turnips. 2 men are examining a bolt of cloth, running it through their fingers, debating whether the colour is blue or grey. A child about your age is crying, lost in the crowd, calling for a mother who doesn't answer. You think about helping. You don't. The goose clubs are gathered at the far end of the market. You've been saving this for last, the way you save the best bite of food for the end of the meal. The goose clubs are something special, something that belongs to the poor as much as the rich. Maybe more. Here's how it works. All year long, working families put money aside. A penny here, a halfpenny there, dropped into a jar or a tin or a hole in the floorboards. They join a club, usually organised by a shopkeeper or a pub landlord, and they pay their dues every week without fail. Rain or shine, sick or well, hungry or fed. They pay because they know what's coming. They pay because this is the one day of the year when even the poorest family can have something special on the table, a goose. Their own goose, bought and paid for over 12 months of careful saving, waiting for them at the club on Christmas Eve morning. You can see them now, the Goose Club members. They're lined up at a table behind the poulterer's stall, and they're different from the wealthy shoppers. Their clothes are patched and faded. Their faces are thin, lined with the kind of worry that comes from never quite having enough. But they're smiling, actually smiling, because today, finally, all that sacrifice is going to pay off. One by one, they step forward and give their names. One by one, the club secretary checks his ledger and nods. One by one, they receive their goose, their very own goose, and their faces light up like candles in a dark room. You watch a man pick up his bird and hold it close, almost like he's hugging it. His coat is threadbare, his boots are held together with twine, but in that moment he looks like the richest person in London. His wife is beside him and she's crying, actually crying, tears streaming down her face as she looks at this goose, this £10 bird that probably cost them more than they could spare, that probably meant going without things they needed. But they did it anyway. They saved and they sacrificed and they made it through, and now here they are on Christmas Eve with a goose of their own. You feel something strange in your chest, something that aches. Your family doesn't belong to a goose club. Your family can't afford to put aside a penny a week, not when every penny is needed for food and rent and coal. Your family will be eating bread tonight, probably. Maybe some gruel if your mother can manage it. Maybe some potatoes if the prices have come down. Not goose, never goose. You wonder what it tastes like. You've smelled it cooking, walking past the houses of people who can afford it, but you've never actually tasted it, never had a bite of that crispy skin, that rich dark meat, those drippings that people save for gravy. It's like a dream, a story, something that happens to other people in other lives. William! The voice cuts through the market noise, and you spin around. It's your friend Peter. Well, friend might be stretching it. Peter is another crossing sweeper, a year older than you, with a gap-toothed grin and a talent for getting into trouble. You work neighbouring corners sometimes, share tips about which streets are best, which gentlemen are generous, and which ones will cuff you round the ear if you're not careful. Didn't expect to see you here, Peter says, pushing through the crowd. Thought you'd be working all day. Took a break, wanted to see the market. Peter grins. Same, look what I got. He holds out his hand. In his palm are 3 chestnuts, their shells still warm, their surfaces cracked from the roasting. Where'd you get those? Nicked 'em. Peter's grin widens. Seller was looking the other way, want one? You hesitate. Stealing is wrong. You know that. Your mother has told you 100 times, 1,000 times that no matter how hungry you get, you don't take what isn't yours. God sees everything, she says, and even if he doesn't, the constables do, and a night in the cells is worse than a night with an empty stomach. But the chestnuts are right there, warm, fragrant, real. No, you say, and the word hurts coming out. Thanks, though. Peter shrugs, pops one in his mouth, chews with obvious pleasure. Your loss. He's probably right. It probably is your loss. But you think about your mother, about the way she looks at you with such hope, such trust, like you're the one good thing she has left in the world. You can't betray that. You won't. I should get back, you say. Corner's probably taken by now. Probably. Peter pops another chestnut. See you tomorrow? Yeah, see you. You turn and push back through the crowd, away from the goose clubs and the roasting chestnuts and all the things you can't have, back toward your corner, back toward your broom, back toward the life that's waiting for you whether you want it or not. But something has changed. You're not sure what it is exactly. Maybe it's the Goose Club people, the way they cried over a bird like it was the most precious thing in the world. Maybe it's the chestnuts in Peter's hand, the choice you made not to take one. Maybe it's just Christmas Eve working its strange magic on you, making you feel things you don't usually let yourself feel. Hope, maybe, or something like it. The fog is rolling back in as you reach your corner. The street is still busy, carriages and carts and pedestrians all competing for space, and your spot is miraculously empty. Nobody's taken it. Your broom is where you left it, leaning against the lamppost like a friend waiting for you to come home. You pick it up. You start to sweep. And somewhere in the distance you can hear the carol singers again, their voices rising through the fog, singing about angels and shepherds and a baby born in a manger. It sounds different now, less like a song for other people and more like something that might, just might, include you too. Hark, the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn king. You hum along under your breath, and you keep sweeping. By afternoon, the fog has turned golden. The gas lamps are coming on early today, their flames flickering behind glass, casting pools of yellow light onto the wet cobblestones. You can see them stretching away down the street like a chain of small suns, each one fighting back against the grey. It's one of the things you actually like about winter in London, the way the lamps transform the city, turn it into something almost magical when the daylight fails. Almost. You've made 11 pence today. 11 pence. It's more than you've ever made in a single day of sweeping, and your hand keeps drifting to your pocket to touch the coins, to make sure they're real. 6 pennies and a 5-penny piece, and 2 half-pennies cold and solid against your thigh. Every time you feel them, something loosens in your chest. Tonight, your family will eat. You pack up your broom around 3 o'clock when the light starts to go and the cold becomes too much to bear. Your fingers have stopped feeling like fingers. They're just lumps of meat at the ends of your hands, clumsy and unresponsive, and you have to concentrate hard just to wrap them around the broom handle. The walk home takes twice as long as usual because you keep stopping to blow on your hands, to stamp your feet, to work some feeling back into the parts of you that have gone numb. The streets are different now than they were this morning. The crowds have thinned out, the shoppers heading home with their purchases, the servants hurrying back to prepare dinner for their employers. You pass a woman carrying a basket of oranges, their bright colour almost shocking against the grey. A man with a cart full of cabbages, shouting that he's selling them off cheap, last chance before Christmas. A group of boys your age, running and laughing, throwing snowballs at each other even though there's barely any snow on the ground. You don't join them, you have somewhere to be. The route home takes you through neighbourhoods you don't usually see. Not the slums of the East End, not the cramped and rotting rookeries where you live. These are the streets west of the city, where the houses are tall and clean and the windows actually have glass in them, where servants scrub the front steps every morning and carriages wait in the street like loyal dogs. You shouldn't be here. You know that. A ragged boy in a threadbare jacket smelling of horse manure and sweat walking through a neighbourhood like this. If a constable sees you, he might stop you, ask questions, wonder what you're doing so far from where you belong. But you take this route anyway, sometimes, when you have the energy, when you need to see something other than the life you're stuck in. Today, you take this route because of the windows. The houses here have windows that go from floor to ceiling, wide enough that you can see right into the rooms beyond, and what you see stops you in your tracks every single time. Christmas trees. Actual Christmas trees standing in the drawing rooms of these wealthy houses, decorated with things you can barely imagine, candles burning on the branches, their flames reflected 1,000 times in the glass ornaments hanging beside them, strings of dried fruit, apples and oranges that have been cut and preserved, their colours faded but still beautiful, ribbons of every shade, red and green and gold, wound around the trunk like the stripes on a barber's pole. And beneath the trees, piled on the carpet, presents wrapped in paper and tied with bows. You stop in front of one house. Just stand there on the pavement, staring through the window like it's a painting in a gallery. Inside, a family is gathered around the tree, a father with side whiskers and a comfortable belly sitting in an armchair with a newspaper, a mother in a silk dress the colour of wine, her hair pinned up in an elaborate style, 2 children, a boy and a girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, playing with something on the carpet, a set of toy soldiers, it looks like, little metal men with painted uniforms. The room glows with warmth. You can see the fire burning in the grate, see the way the light dances on the walls. You can almost feel it, that warmth radiating through the glass. It makes the cold around you feel sharper, more real, more cruel. The mother looks up. For a second, your eyes meet. Just a second. Her face changes, goes through something you can't quite read. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort, or that particular expression people get when they're reminded that the world isn't as neat and orderly as they'd like it to be. Then she turns away and says something to a servant you can't see, and a moment later, heavy curtains sweep across the window, blocking out the light, blocking out you. Right. You keep walking. The thing about Christmas trees is that they weren't always a thing. Your mother told you about it once, back when she used to tell you stories before bed, back when there was time for stories. She said that Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert, had a tree at Windsor Castle. A German tradition, she said, something from the prince's homeland. And then the newspapers printed a drawing of the royal family standing around their decorated evergreen, and suddenly everyone in England wanted one. Everyone who could afford one, anyway. For people like you, a tree would be lunacy. Where would you put it? How would you buy candles to light it? What would you hang on the branches when you barely have food to put in your mouths? The whole idea is absurd. A joke. A decoration for people whose lives are already so comfortable that they need to invent new ways to feel festive. You turn down a side street, leaving the wealthy neighbourhood behind. The change is immediate. The houses get smaller, shabbier. The street gets narrower, darker. The gas lamps fewer and farther between. The smell changes too, less coal smoke and more something else. Something you don't want to think about too hard. Raw sewage, rotting garbage. The accumulated filth of too many people crammed into too small a space. Home. The building looks worse than it did this morning somehow. More tired, more defeated. The bricks are black with soot, and the windows are patched with paper and rags, and the front door hangs crooked on its hinges. Someone has nailed a sprig of holly above the door frame. It's the only sign that tomorrow is Christmas. You push open the door and climb the stairs. Your mother is awake when you come in. She's sitting by the window, the one that looks out at nothing but the brick wall of the building next door, and she's mending something by the last of the daylight. Her needle moves in and out of the fabric with a steady rhythm, mechanical, like the ticking of a clock. She looks up when she hears the door. "William." Her voice is tired but warm. "You're back early." "Made good money today." You cross the room, pull the coins from your pocket, hold them out to her. 11 pence. Her eyes widen, just for a second, but you see it. That flash of relief, of hope, of something close to joy. Then she schools her expression, puts on the calm face she always wears. The one that says everything is going to be fine, even when it isn't. 11 pence, she repeats. That's wonderful, love. That's really wonderful. She takes the coins from your hand, counts them carefully, puts them in the tin box she keeps hidden under the loose floorboard. The tin box that holds everything your family has in the world. Your mother's wages, your sweeping money, the few pennies Emma sometimes gets for running errands for the neighbours. It's not much, it's never much, but today it's more than usual, and that matters. Where's Emma? Downstairs. Mrs. Hennessy's watching her. Your mother sets down her mending, stands up, stretches. Her back makes a sound like cracking knuckles. "I should go get her. We can eat soon." "What are we having?" Your mother hesitates, just for a second. "Bread, some cheese. Mrs. Potts gave me a few potatoes in exchange for mending her husband's shirt." Bread, cheese, potatoes. You think about the Goose Club families, clutching their birds like treasures. You think about the wealthy house with its tree and its candles and its toy soldiers on the carpet. You think about the smell of roasted chestnuts, warm and sweet, drifting through the market. "That sounds good," you say, and you mean it, mostly. Bread and cheese and potatoes is better than nothing, better than the gruel you had for dinner last night, better than the hungry nights when there's nothing at all and you go to sleep with your stomach eating itself. Your mother smiles. It's a tired smile, worn thin at the edges, but it's real. "I'll go get your sister. Light the candle, will you? It's getting dark." She leaves. You hear her footsteps on the stairs, creaking down toward the ground floor. You're alone in the room. The candle is on the windowsill, a stub of tallow maybe 2 inches high. You have a box of matches, precious matches that cost a halfpenny and have to last the week. You strike one carefully, shield the flame with your cupped hand, touch it to the wick. The candle catches, flickers, steadies. Light spreads through the room. It's not much. One candle in a window, casting a pale glow that barely reaches the corners, but it changes things, pushes back the darkness just a little, makes the room feel less like a cell and more like a home. You think about what your mother told you once, about how the Victorians, the writers and the reformers and the people who care about such things believe that Christmas is supposed to mean something, not just church and prayers, something bigger, something about coming together, about sharing what you have, about finding light in the darkness, a single candle in a window, maybe that's all it takes. You sit down on the edge of the mattress and wait. Outside, the fog is thickening again, rolling through the streets like smoke. You can hear the city settling into evening. The clatter of wheels is fading. The street sellers are packing up, heading home. Somewhere nearby, a church bell is ringing, calling people to evening services. Christmas Eve. The door opens and Emma comes bounding in. She's 6 years old and she doesn't know enough to be miserable. That's the strange thing about children. They can be cold and hungry and dressed in rags and they'll still find something to laugh about. Emma has been playing with Mrs. Hennessy's cat apparently, and now she's telling you all about it, her words tumbling over each other in her excitement. And then he jumped on the table, William right on the table, and Mrs. Hennessy said, bad cat, but she was laughing so hard. You pull her onto your lap, she smells like dust and stale sweat and something else, something that's just Emma, and you hold her close and let her chatter. Your mother comes in behind her, carrying a cloth bundle that must be the food. Look what I found, your mother says. She unwraps the cloth. Inside, there's the bread and the cheese and the potatoes she mentioned. But there's something else too. A small paper bag, and inside the bag, nestled in a twist of brown paper, is a single orange. Where did you get that? The greengrocer on the corner. He was giving them away. Said they were too small to sell. Your mother picks up the orange, turns it in her hand. It glows in the candlelight, bright as a miniature sun. Thought we could share it. For Christmas. Emma's eyes go wide. An orange? A real orange? A real orange? You can't remember the last time you had an orange. Years, maybe, before your father died, before everything fell apart. The fruit was a luxury then, and it's an even bigger luxury now, but here it is, sitting in your mother's palm, real and solid and almost impossibly beautiful. Can we have it now? Emma asks. No, sweetheart. Tomorrow, for Christmas breakfast. Emma's face falls, just for a second. Then she rallies, the way children do. Tomorrow is Christmas? Tomorrow is Christmas. Will Father Christmas come? The question hangs in the air. Your mother's face does something complicated, a mix of love and pain, and that particular sadness that comes from not being able to give your children what they want. I don't know, sweetheart. We'll have to wait and see. Emma nods, satisfied with that answer in a way that only a 6-year-old can be. She doesn't understand that Father Christmas doesn't visit houses like yours. She doesn't understand that the presents other children get, the dolls and the toy soldiers and the picture books, cost money your family doesn't have. She still believes in magic. You hope she believes for a little while longer. Your mother starts preparing dinner. There's no stove in the room, no proper way to cook, so she does what she can. The bread is sliced thin to make it stretch. The cheese is crumbled over the top. The potatoes are cold, left over from Mrs. Hennessy's pot, but they're filling, and that's what matters. You eat together on the mattress, the three of you, sharing the food in the candlelight. Outside, the fog has swallowed the city completely. You can't see the building next door, can't see the street below, can't see anything but grey. But inside this room, there's warmth. Not much. Not the blazing fire you saw in that wealthy house, but warmth nonetheless. Emma falls asleep first, curled against your side, her belly full for once. Your mother sits by the candle, her mending back in her hands, and you watch her work in the flickering light. Mum? Yes, love? Do you remember when Dad was alive? When we had Christmas dinner? She's quiet for a long moment. Her needle keeps moving, in and out, in and out. I remember, she says finally. We had beef that year. Your father saved for months to afford it. And we had plum pudding. I made it myself. What did it taste like? Like heaven. She looks up at you, and her eyes are bright in the candlelight. Tears, maybe. Or just the light playing tricks. Like absolute heaven. You don't say anything. What is there to say? That you wish things were different? She knows. That you miss your father? She knows that too. The words would just hang there, useless, so you swallow them down and watch the candle burn. Try to sleep, your mother says. Tomorrow's Christmas. Something good might happen. You don't believe her, but you lie down anyway, your sister's warmth against your back, and you close your eyes. The sounds of the city drift through the thin walls, a drunk singing somewhere, a baby crying, the distant rumble of a late carriage, and somewhere, far away, carol singers. Their voices float through the fog like ghosts, rising and falling in harmonies you can barely hear. You don't know the words, not all of them. but you know the tune. Everyone knows the tune. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. You fall asleep to the sound of it, and for a little while the hunger and the cold and the fear all fade away, and there's just the music carrying you into the dark. You dream of your father. He's standing at the docks the way he used to stand, with his cap pushed back on his head and his sleeves rolled up past his elbows. The sun is out, which is how you know it's a dream. The sun is never out like this in London, bright and warm and golden, but here it is, shining down on the river, making the water sparkle like someone scattered diamonds across the surface. "William," your father says, "come here, lad." You walk toward him. The dock is empty, which is wrong. The docks are never empty. There should be men shouting, crates swinging on chains, the smell of tar and salt and sweat. But in this dream, it's just the two of you standing at the edge of the water while the gulls wheel overhead. "Look," he says, and points. You look. Out on the river, a ship is coming in, a big one, 3-masted, with sails the colour of fresh cream. It's beautiful. You've never seen a ship like this, not in real life. The ships at the docks are working vessels, dirty and battered, their hulls crusted with barnacles. This one looks like something from a storybook. "That's for us," your father says. "That's our ship, William, going to take us somewhere better." "Where?" But he doesn't answer. When you turn to look at him, he's gone, and the sun is gone too, and you're standing alone on the dock in the dark, and the ship is sinking, slowly, silently, disappearing beneath the black water while you watch. You wake up. The room is cold. Colder than before, if that's possible. The candle has burned out, and there's no light except what seeps through the window from the gas lamp in the street below. Your mother is asleep beside you, her breath slow and even. Emma is a warm lump pressed against your chest, her small hand clutching the fabric of your shirt. You lie still for a moment, listening. The building is quiet, not silent, never silent. You can hear the Murphy's baby fussing on the floor above, that thin, reedy cry that never quite stops. You can hear someone coughing, the same wet cough you've been hearing for weeks, the one that means consumption, the one that means death is coming for whoever makes that sound. You can hear the wind outside rattling the window, trying to get in, but the singing has stopped. The city has gone to sleep. Christmas Eve. Somewhere out there, in the houses with the big windows and the glowing trees, children are tucked into warm beds with full bellies, dreaming of what Father Christmas will bring them in the morning. Dolls with china faces and real hair, toy soldiers with painted uniforms, rocking horses, picture books, oranges in their stockings, nuts and sweets, and all the things that cost money, that require parents who can afford to play at magic. Your mother doesn't have money for magic. You know what tomorrow will bring, the orange shared 3 ways, maybe some bread toasted over a neighbour's fire, maybe a carol sung together before your mother leaves for the laundry, because even on Christmas Day, the wealthy still need their shirts washed and their linens pressed. The laundry doesn't close for holidays. Nothing closes for people like you. Sleep won't come back. You lie there in the dark, your mind turning over the same thoughts, the same fears, the same questions that have no answers. What happens when the money runs out? It's a question you try not to think about, but tonight it won't leave you alone. 11 pence won't last forever. Your mother's wages barely cover the rent, and winter isn't done yet. There are months to go before the weather warms, before the crowds come back to the streets, before the sweeping picks up again. What happens when there's nothing left in the tin box under the floorboard? The workhouse. The word sits in your mind like a stone. You know about the workhouse. Everyone in the rookeries knows about the workhouse. It's the place you go when you've lost everything else. The place the parish sends you when you can't pay your rent, can't feed your children, can't survive on your own anymore. The place where families go in together and come out in pieces, if they come out at all. You've seen the building. It's not far from here, a great grey pile of bricks with barred windows and a yard behind high walls. You've walked past it dozens of times, always on the other side of the street, always with your eyes down, as if looking at it directly might draw its attention, as if it might reach out and pull you in. The stories. Everyone has stories about the workhouse. Mrs. Hennessy's cousin went in after her husband died and the landlord threw her out. She was separated from her children the moment she walked through the door. Boys in one ward, girls in another, women somewhere else entirely. They saw each other once a week, for an hour, in a room with a guard watching. The rest of the time, they worked, picking oakum, crushing bones. The kind of work that tears your hands apart and leaves you too exhausted to cry. She got out after 6 months. Her children didn't. One died of fever in the children's ward. The other was sent to a workhouse in the countryside, a place for training pauper apprentices, and she never saw him again, just gone, like he never existed. And then there's the food. The famous workhouse food, gruel so thin you can see through it, bread so stale it breaks your teeth, portions so small that the inmates are always hungry, always desperate, always on the edge of starving. There was a scandal a few years back in a place called Andover. The inmates were so hungry that they fought over the bones they were supposed to be crushing for fertilizer. They ate the marrow out of them. Rotting bones meant for fields, and people were sucking the marrow out because they were that hungry. You can't let that happen to your family. You think about the 11 pence in the tin box, about your mother's 4 shillings a week, about all the weeks stretching ahead, all the cold mornings and empty stomachs and long hours of sweeping. You think about what it would take to keep the 3 of you out of that grey building with its barred windows. Everything. It would take everything you have, and even that might not be enough. The window rattles again, a gust of wind carrying the smell of coal smoke and something else. Snow, maybe. There's a sharpness to the air that wasn't there before, a promise of white to come. You close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come, but something else does. A kind of half-doze. A drifting state where you're not quite awake and not quite dreaming. Images float through your mind. Your father's face. The ship sinking, the workhouse gates, tall and black and final, and then something different. The Goose Club families. You see them again, the way they looked this morning at the market, the man hugging his bird like it was made of gold, the woman crying, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by something as simple as a goose. They were poor too. You could tell from their clothes, their thin faces, the way they carried themselves. They weren't so different from you, but they made it work. A penny at a time, a year of sacrifice, and at the end, something to show for it, something to celebrate. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's how you survive, not by hoping for miracles, not by wishing for ships that will never come, just by putting one foot in front of the other, one penny after another, one day, 1 week, 1 year, until you've built something, until you've saved enough to keep the workhouse at bay. It's not much of a plan. It's barely a plan at all. But it's better than nothing. You open your eyes. The window is lighter than before. Not much, just a shade less dark. Dawn is coming. Christmas morning is coming. And with it, whatever the day will bring. You think about the orange in your mother's pocket. That small, bright miracle. A greengrocer's cast-off, too small to sell, and yet here it is, waiting to be shared. 3 ways, so each of you gets a taste, so each of you has something sweet on your tongue on Christmas morning. It's not a feast, it's not a tree with candles, it's not presents piled under the branches, but it's something. The baby upstairs has stopped crying, the coughing has quieted, even the wind seems to have settled as if the whole building is holding its breath. You lie there in the slowly brightening dark, your sister warm against your chest, your mother's breath steady beside you, the three of you together, alive. That's more than some people have. That's more than the families in the workhouse have, separated and starving and stripped of everything but their names. You have each other. On the floor above, you hear movement, someone getting up, moving around, starting their day. A door creaks open, footsteps on the stairs. The building is waking up. Christmas morning, your mother stirs beside you, makes a small sound, opens her eyes. For a moment, she just looks at you in the grey light, and you look back. Neither of you says anything. There's nothing that needs to be said. Then she smiles, tired, worn, but real. "Happy Christmas, love," she whispers. "Happy Christmas, Mum." Emma shifts against you, mumbles something in her sleep. Your mother reaches over and strokes her hair, gentle, the way she used to stroke yours when you were small and scared and didn't understand why the world was so hard. "Let her sleep a bit longer," your mother says. "We've got time." You nod. There's nowhere to go, nothing pressing, just this room, this moment, this small family holding on to each other in the early light of Christmas Day. Outside, the city is waking too. You can hear it, the distant rumble of wheels earlier than usual because the markets will be closed and people want to get home. A door slamming somewhere, a dog barking, and underneath it all, so faint you might be imagining it, the sound of church bells. Not the loud, clanging bells that mark the hours. These are different, softer, more musical, the bells that call people to Christmas services, ringing out across the foggy city, telling everyone that the day has come. You listen to them for a long moment. Your mother is praying. You can tell from the way her lips are moving, silently, shaping words you can't hear. She does this sometimes, not as much as she used to, back when your father was alive and things were easier, but still, sometimes, when things are hard, when she needs something to hold on to. You don't pray. You're not sure if you believe in God anymore. You've seen too much. The children dying in the streets, the families torn apart, the workhouse gates closing behind people who never came out. If God is watching, he's doing a lousy job, but you don't say that to your mother. You let her pray, and you listen to the bells, and you hold your sister close while the room slowly fills with the pale light of Christmas morning. The fog is thinner today. You can see it through the window, not the solid grey wall of yesterday, but something softer, hazier. The sun is trying to break through. It won't succeed, not really. The sun never quite wins against London's winter, but it's trying, and that feels like something. Emma opens her eyes. "Is it Christmas?" she asks, her voice thick with sleep. "It's Christmas," you tell her. She sits up, suddenly awake, her eyes bright. "The orange. Mum, is it time for the orange?" Your mother laughs. It's a real laugh, warm and full, and it fills the small room like sunlight. "Yes, sweetheart, it's time for the orange." She reaches into her pocket, pulls out the small paper bag. Emma watches with the kind of intensity usually reserved for magicians and miracle workers. Your mother unfolds the paper slowly, carefully, making a production of it, and there it is, the orange. It's smaller than you remembered, barely bigger than your fist. The skin is thin and a little wrinkled, the colour faded from that bright gold to something more muted. It's clearly the runt of the batch, the one the greengrocer couldn't sell, the one he gave away rather than throw in the gutter. It's beautiful. Your mother digs her thumbnail into the peel. The smell hits you immediately, bright and clean, and nothing like the smells you're used to. Nothing like damp wool or coal smoke or the stink of the river. This smells like sunshine, like summer, like the world outside the rookeries, the world you've only glimpsed through windows. She separates the orange into sections. 3 for Emma, 3 for you, 3 for herself. 9 little wedges of fruit arranged on the paper like precious stones. "Go on," she says. "Eat." Emma doesn't need to be told twice. She grabs a section and stuffs it in her mouth, her eyes going wide as the juice hits her tongue. A sound comes out of her, something between a gasp and a moan, pure animal pleasure. You pick up your first section. Hold it for a moment. Feel the weight of it, the soft give of the fruit beneath your fingers. Then you bite. The taste is like nothing you can describe. Sweet, but not too sweet. Tangy, like lemon's friendlier cousin. The juice floods your mouth and you close your eyes, and for just a second you're not in a cramped room in the East End of London. You're somewhere else. Somewhere warm. Somewhere the sun shines every day and food grows on trees and nobody has to sweep horse manure off the street just to survive. Then you swallow and you're back. But the taste lingers, and that's enough. That's more than enough. "Good?" your mother asks. "Good," you say. Emma has already finished her 3 sections. She's licking her fingers, trying to get every last drop of juice, looking at your remaining 2 pieces with obvious longing. You hand her 1. "William, no," your mother starts. "I'm full," you lie. "Really?" You take the other one. Your mother looks at you, really looks at you, the way she does when she's trying to see past what you're saying to what you're thinking. You hold her gaze steady, and after a moment she nods. "Thank you, love." She takes the last piece. The 3 of you eat in silence, savouring every bite, making it last as long as possible. And when it's done, when the orange is nothing but a pile of peel on the paper, you sit there together and let the taste linger on your tongues. Christmas morning. Not what the wealthy have, not a feast with goose and plum pudding and presents under the tree, just bread and an orange and a family huddled together in a cold room. But it's yours, and right now, in this moment, that's enough. The church bells are still ringing, and outside, so faintly, you might be imagining it, you hear voices. Carol singers making their way through the streets, bringing music to the rookeries where nobody has much to celebrate. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. You listen, and for just a moment you believe them. The building empties into the street like water from a jug. One family after another, spilling out of doorways, blinking in the thin winter light. The Murphys from the floor above, the father carrying the baby that cried all night. The O'Connells from the ground floor, 7 of them somehow crammed into a room even smaller than yours. Old Mrs. Patterson, who lives alone in the cellar and talks to herself in a language nobody recognises. The Kowalskis, the Nguyens, the Smiths, all of them tumbling out into the street, stretching their legs, breathing air that isn't thick with the smell of too many bodies in too small a space. Christmas morning, and the rookeries are awake. Your mother has dressed Emma in her cleanest clothes, which isn't saying much. The dress is patched in 3 places, and the hem is coming loose, but it's been brushed and pressed, and Emma wears it like it's made of silk. She holds your mother's hand as the 3 of you join the flow of people heading toward the end of the street. "Where are we going?" Emma asks. "Church," your mother says. "It's Christmas. We should give thanks." Thanks for what, you want to ask? For the cold? For the hunger? For the father who died and left us with nothing? But you don't. You keep your mouth shut and you walk. The church is St. Mary's, a squat stone building that's been here for 200 years, maybe more. The walls are black with soot, and the windows are cracked, and the roof looks like it might collapse if someone breathes too hard. But it's a church, and on Christmas morning, it's packed. You've never seen so many people crammed into one space. They're standing in the aisles, pressed against the walls, spilling out the door into the churchyard. Old women in shawls that have seen better decades. Young men with hollow cheeks and eyes that have seen too much. Children everywhere, squirming and fidgeting, held in place by parents who are too tired to scold them properly. The smell is something else, wool and sweat, and that particular funk of people who haven't had a proper bath in months, but nobody seems to care. The vicar is at the front, a thin man with a red nose and a voice that carries surprisingly well for someone who looks like a strong wind might knock him over. He's reading from the Bible, the Christmas story, the one about the baby born in a stable because there was no room at the inn. And she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger. You've heard this story 100 times. It's the same every year, the same words, the same message. But something about hearing it here, in this church full of people who know what it's like to have no room, no money, no hope, makes it feel different. A baby born in a stable, a family with nowhere else to go. Maybe God understands something after all. The service ends with a hymn. You don't know all the words, but you know the tune, and you sing along as best you can, your voice lost in the chorus of hundreds. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Emma is singing too, her little voice high and off-key, but full of something that might be joy. Your mother has her eyes closed, and there are tears on her cheeks, and you don't know if she's happy or sad or both at once. The song ends. The vicar says a blessing, and then the crowd begins to move, slowly, awkwardly, everyone trying to get through the doors at once. Outside, the light has changed. The fog has lifted more than you expected. You can see the sky now, a pale grey that's almost white, and there's a brightness to everything that wasn't there before. Not sunshine exactly, more like the memory of sunshine, the promise that somewhere behind all that cloud, the sun is still there, still burning, still waiting. William! You turn. A boy is pushing through the crowd toward you, waving his arm. It takes you a second to recognize him. Peter, your friend from the market, the one who offered you the stolen chestnuts. "Happy Christmas," he says, slightly out of breath. "Didn't think I'd see you here. Didn't think you were the church type. Mum wanted to come." Peter nods like this makes perfect sense. "Same. My nan dragged us all out. Said if we didn't pray on Christmas, we'd go straight to hell. Figured it wasn't worth the risk." You laugh. You can't help it. Peter has that effect on people. "Hey," he says, lowering his voice. "You eat yet? Real food, I mean." "Had an orange." His eyes go wide. "An orange? Where'd you get an orange?" "Greengrocer gave it to my mum. Too small to sell." "Lucky." He looks genuinely impressed. "Best I got was some bread and a bit of dripping. But hey, Mrs. Flanagan's doing a thing. You should come." "A thing?" "A feast." "Well, not a feast exactly. More like everyone brings what they've got and we share it. She does it every year. Her husband died a while back, left her with nothing, and she said she swore she'd never let anyone on our street go hungry on Christmas if she could help it." You look at your mother. She's talking to one of the women from the building, their heads bent together, sharing some piece of news or gossip. Emma is watching a group of children play a game with a ball made of rags. "I'll ask," you say. Mrs. Flanagan's gathering is in the courtyard behind her building, which is even more decrepit than yours. The walls are green with damp, and there's a pile of rubbish in one corner that nobody has cleared away, but someone has strung up a line of ribbon, red and green, salvaged from who knows where. And there's a fire burning in an old metal barrel, and people are gathered around it, warming their hands, passing things back and forth. Your mother agreed to come. She brought the bread she was saving for dinner, and now it's sitting on an overturned crate alongside a dozen other contributions. A pot of thin soup, more water than anything else, a handful of wrinkled apples, half a meat pie, cold, but still edible. A jar of pickles, some boiled potatoes, a wedge of cheese that's gone slightly green at the edges. It's not much. None of it is much. But together, spread out on that crate like an offering, it looks like something. It looks like a feast. Everyone take a bit, Mrs. Flanagan says. She's a broad woman with arms like hams and a voice that could cut through a thunderstorm. Don't be greedy, mind. There's enough for everyone if nobody takes more than their share. People line up, orderly, polite, the way you'd never expect from a crowd of people who haven't had a proper meal in days. They take a slice of bread, a ladle of soup, a piece of potato. They take their portions to the edges of the courtyard and eat standing up or sitting on the cold ground or leaning against the damp walls. Nobody complains. Nobody fights. Nobody takes more than their share. You find a spot near the fire with your mother and Emma. The soup is watery and undersalted, but it's hot, and after the cold of the morning, that's enough. The bread is stale, but you dip it in the soup to soften it, and it goes down easy. Emma eats like she hasn't seen food in weeks, which isn't far from the truth. This is nice, she says, between bites. I like Christmas. Your mother smiles. It's a sad smile, the kind that knows this isn't what Christmas is supposed to be, that other children have so much more, but there's warmth in it too, gratitude for what you have, even if it isn't much. I'm glad, sweetheart. Around you, people are talking, laughing even. Someone has brought a fiddle, a battered thing with a cracked body and strings that look like they might snap at any moment. But when the old man starts to play, the music that comes out is surprisingly sweet. A jig, something Irish, and before long people are clapping along. A few of the younger ones start dancing, their feet moving in patterns passed down from parents and grandparents, from a homeland most of them have never seen. You watch them dance. There's a woman spinning in the centre of the courtyard, her skirt flying out around her, her face flushed with something that might be happiness. A man joins her, catches her hand, pulls her into a turn. They're both thin, both worn, both clearly exhausted from lives that demand too much and give too little. But right now, in this moment, none of that matters. They're dancing, they're alive, they're celebrating. This is what Christmas looks like for people like you. Not trees and candles and presents wrapped in paper, not goose with all the trimmings and plum pudding for dessert. Just this, a fire in a barrel, food shared among strangers, music played on a broken fiddle, people who have nothing giving what they can, and somehow impossibly, it's enough. The sun breaks through. Not fully, not the way it would in summer, just a patch of light, a beam slanting down through the clouds, landing on the courtyard like a spotlight. It catches the ribbon someone strung up, makes it glow red and green against the grey walls. It falls on the dancers, on the old man with the fiddle, on the children running and laughing in the corners. It falls on your mother's face. And for just a moment she looks young again, not the tired woman who works 14-hour days at the laundry, whose hands are cracked and raw from lie, who lies awake at night worrying about how she's going to keep her children fed. Just a woman, a mother, someone who still believes that things might get better. Mum, you say. Yes, love, I'm glad we came. She reaches over and squeezes your hand. Her fingers are cold, rough with calluses, but the grip is firm, certain. So am I. The music changes. The jig becomes something slower, softer, a ballad, maybe. The old man's voice rises, thin and reedy, but carrying a tune that makes people stop and listen. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. You know this song. Everyone knows this song. It was written just a few years ago, they say, by some poet who wanted to capture what Christmas feels like when you have nothing, when the world is cold and hard and there's no comfort anywhere except what you make for yourself. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, in the bleak midwinter, long ago. Emma has stopped eating. She's listening, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly open. Your mother has her arm around her, holding her close. The courtyard has gone quiet. Everyone listening to the old man sing about a winter that might have been this one, about a world that is definitely this one. What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what I can, I give him. Give my heart. The song ends. For a moment, nobody moves. The fire crackles. The ribbon flutters in a breeze you can barely feel. Then someone claps and someone else joins in, and before long the whole courtyard is applauding, cheering, calling for another song. The old man grins, showing gaps where teeth used to be, and starts up another tune. This one faster, happier. People start dancing again. Your mother stands up. "Come on," she says. "Let's dance." "Mum, I don't know how. I'll teach you." She pulls you to your feet, takes your hands in hers. Her grip is stronger than you expected. She starts to move, guiding you through the steps, and before you know it, you're dancing too, badly, awkwardly, stepping on her feet more than the ground, but dancing. Emma joins in, grabbing your hand and your mother's hand, turning the two of you into a circle. The three of you spin together, laughing, stumbling, holding on to each other like you're afraid to let go. This is Christmas. Not the trees, not the presents, not the goose or the pudding or the cards with their painted angels. This moment, this fire, this music, this family. The poor don't have much, but what they have, they share, and what they share becomes something greater than any of them could have alone. The sun slips back behind the clouds, the light fades, the courtyard returns to its usual greyness, the damp walls and the rubbish pile and the cracked cobblestones underfoot. But the music keeps playing, the people keep dancing, and for a few more hours at least, the cold and the hunger and the fear all fade away. You dance with your mother and your sister until your legs ache and your lungs burn. Then you find a spot by the fire and sit down, the three of you pressed together for warmth, watching the flames dance and listening to the old man play his fiddle. Mrs. Flanagan comes by with more soup. "There's plenty," she says, even though there clearly isn't. "Eat up. It's Christmas. You eat. The soup is cooler now, and somehow even thinner than before, but it fills your belly, and that's what matters." Emma falls asleep against your shoulder. Your mother strokes her hair, humming along with the music, and you sit there in the fading light of Christmas Day, surrounded by people who have nothing and everything all at once. This is what survival looks like. Not grand gestures, not miracles from heaven, just people helping people, neighbours feeding neighbours, strangers becoming family for a day. The fire burns lower, the music slows, and somewhere in the city, in the houses with the big windows and the glowing trees, rich people are sitting down to their Christmas dinners, goose and turkey and ham, plum pudding and mince pies, wine in crystal glasses and silver on the table. They don't know about this courtyard. They don't know about Mrs. Flanagan and her ribbon and her shared meal. They don't know that somewhere in the rookeries poor people are dancing and singing and celebrating Christmas in the only way they can. Maybe they wouldn't care if they did know, but that's all right. You don't need them to care. You don't need their approval, their charity, their sympathy. You have this fire, this family, this moment. And right now, that's enough. The afternoon fades the way candles do, slowly at first, then all at once. One moment the courtyard is full of people, full of music and dancing and the smell of shared food. The next, it's emptying out, families drifting back to their rooms, their conversations trailing behind them like smoke. Mrs. Flanagan is packing up the last of the food. There isn't much left. Some crusts of bread, a few spoonfuls of soup at the bottom of the pot. She wraps it all carefully, like it's made of gold. For tomorrow, she says, when she catches you watching. Always have to think about tomorrow. Your mother takes Emma's hand. We should go too. Get inside before the cold really sets in. But you're not ready. Not yet. The afternoon light is still there, weak but present, and something in you wants to hold on to it a little longer, to stay in this moment where people danced and laughed and shared what they had. Can I walk around a bit first? Your mother hesitates. She's tired, you can see it in the way she stands, the way her shoulders slump, but she looks at your face, at whatever she sees there, and nods. Be back before dark. I mean it, William. I will. You leave the courtyard and head out into the street. The rookeries are quieter now than they were this morning. The crowds have thinned. Most people are inside, gathered around whatever heat they can find, making the most of the holiday. You pass a window where a family is sitting together, their faces lit by a single candle. Another where an old man is reading from a book, his lips moving slowly, his finger tracing the words. Small moments, private moments, the kind of life that happens when nobody's watching. You walk without really knowing where you're going. Your feet take you east, toward the river, away from the slums and into parts of the city you don't usually see. The streets get wider here, the buildings get taller, the smell changes from sewage and rot to coal smoke and something else, something cleaner, something that belongs to people who can afford to be clean. You know you shouldn't be here. A ragged boy from the East End wandering through neighbourhoods where the servants dress better than your mother. If someone stops you, asks what you're doing, you'll have no good answer. Just a boy walking, just a boy looking, but nobody stops you. It's Christmas Day and even the constables seem to have somewhere else to be. The light is different in this part of the city. The gas lamps are already lit, even though it's barely 4 o'clock, and they cast a warm glow over everything. The shop windows are dark, closed for the holiday, but you can still see the displays inside. Bolts of fabric in colours you don't have names for, toys arranged on velvet cushions, and something else, something you've never really noticed before. Cards. Rectangles of thick paper propped up in the windows, covered in pictures and words. You stop in front of one shop, press your face close to the glass to get a better look. The card shows a family gathered around a table, eating and drinking, their faces pink with happiness. The colours are bright, almost garish, reds and greens and golds that seem to glow even in the dim light. At the top, in fancy lettering, it says, "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you." You've heard about these Christmas cards. Some rich man invented them a few years back because he was too lazy to write letters to all his friends. Now everyone who's anyone sends them, your mother says. Stacks of them, delivered by the penny post, piled up on mantelpieces in houses where there's room for such things. A penny post. It costs a penny to send a letter. 1 penny. You made 11 pence yesterday, your best day ever, and it cost a penny just to tell someone you're thinking of them. No wonder the poor don't send cards. You move on, leaving the shop window behind. The sounds change as you walk. In the rookeries, the sounds are hard, shouting, crying, the clatter of things breaking and people fighting. Here the sounds are softer, laughter drifting through closed windows, music, real music, not a battered fiddle, but something with strings and keys, something that swells and rises like it's reaching for heaven. Piano. You've never heard a piano in real life, just in your imagination when people talk about them, when they describe the houses of the wealthy with their drawing rooms and their instruments. But here it is, somewhere nearby, playing a tune you almost recognize. You follow the sound. It leads you to a house on a corner, bigger than any house you've ever seen up close. 4 stories tall, with windows that stretch from floor to ceiling, and a front door painted the deep red of expensive wine. The piano music is coming from somewhere inside, drifting out through gaps in the windows, filling the cold air with something beautiful. You shouldn't be here. You really shouldn't be here, but you stand on the pavement anyway, and you listen. The song is a carol. You know it now, recognizing the melody even without the words. Hark the herald angels sing, the same song you heard in church this morning, but different, richer, fuller, like someone took the tune and dressed it up in finery. Inside the house, through a window on the ground floor, you can see them. The family. A woman at the piano, her fingers moving over the keys like they were born there. A man standing beside her, his arm on her shoulder. Children, 2 of them, a boy and a girl, sitting on a carpet by the fire with their new toys. The boy has a wooden soldier, not just one, but a whole regiment of them, lined up in rows like they're about to march into battle. The girl has something else, something that moves on its own, a mechanical bird in a gilded cage that flaps its wings and opens its beak like it's singing along with the piano. It moves by itself, you hear someone say, muffled through the glass. Truly astonishing. The marvels of the age. Marvels. That's what they call them. The things rich people buy for their children. Marvels, like magic, like miracles. You think about Emma, about the orange that made her eyes go wide, about the way she licked her fingers to catch every drop of juice like it was the most precious thing in the world. A mechanical bird would blow her mind. A wooden soldier, a china doll, any of the things behind that window would seem like magic to her, but she'll never have them. None of those things exist in her world. The closest she'll get is pressing her face against glass. Same as you're doing now. Watching other people's children live the life she'll never live. The song ends. The woman at the piano laughs, says something you can't hear. The man bends down and kisses the top of her head. The children aren't paying attention, lost in their own world of toys and wonder. You step back from the window. The cold hits you all at once, like you'd forgotten it was there. Your feet are numb. Your fingers are starting to go. You've been standing here too long, watching a life that isn't yours, wanting something you can't have. Time to go home. You turn and start walking back the way you came. The gas lamps flicker overhead, their flames dancing in the wind. The piano music fades behind you, replaced by the sounds of the city settling into evening, carriage wheels on distant streets, church bells ringing the hour, a dog barking somewhere, the sound sharp and lonely in the cold. The Victorians transformed Christmas. You've heard people talk about it, the older folks who remember what the holiday used to be like before the Queen and her German husband made it fashionable, before the trees and the cards and the carols. It used to be a quiet thing, they say, a religious day, nothing more. You went to church, said your prayers, ate what you had, and that was it. But now Christmas is everywhere. It's in the shop windows and the market stalls and the songs people sing in the streets. It's in the way families gather, the way children wait for presents, the way everyone pretends, just for a day, that the world is kinder than it really is. The Victorians turned a quiet prayer into a loud celebration. And maybe that's good. Maybe it's good that people have something to look forward to, something to work toward, something that breaks up the endless grey of winter. The Goose Club families saving their pennies, the card senders reaching out across distances, the carol singers filling the streets with music. But it cuts both ways, doesn't it? The more Christmas becomes, the more it costs. The bigger the expectations, the harder it is for people like you to meet them. When Christmas was just church and prayer, everyone could manage. Now that it's trees and toys and feasts fit for royalty, the gap between the haves and the have-nots gets wider every year. You're back in familiar territory now. The streets are narrower, darker, the gas lamps fewer and farther between. The smell of the rookeries wraps around you like an old blanket, familiar and terrible at the same time. Home. The building looks the same as always. Tired, defeated. But there's something different too. As you get closer, you see it. Candles. Not one candle, but several, in nearly every window, a small flame burning against the dark. Mrs. Hennessy's window, the O'Connell's window, old Mrs. Patterson's cellar window, just visible above the ground. Even your own window, 3 floors up, has a faint glow behind the paper patching. A single candle in a window. You remember what your mother told you once about what candles in windows mean? It's an old tradition, she said, Irish maybe, or older than that. You put a candle in your window to show that there's room in your home, room for travellers, room for strangers, room for anyone who needs shelter from the cold. The rookeries are full of people who came from somewhere else, Ireland mostly, fleeing the famine that killed millions, but others too, people from all over, washed up in London because they had nowhere else to go. And now, on Christmas evening, they're putting candles in their windows, showing the world that even here, in the darkest part of the city, there's still light, still welcome, still hope. You climb the stairs. Your mother is waiting by the door, Emma asleep in her arms. The room is warmer than you expected. Not warm exactly, but less cold. Someone has given your mother a few lumps of coal, and there's a small fire burning in the grate that usually sits empty. You were gone a long time, she says, not angry, just worried. I walked far. She nods like she understands. Maybe she does. Maybe she's done the same thing, wandered through parts of the city where people live differently, just to see, just to know. Come inside, close the door, the heat's getting out. You do as she says. The door creaks shut behind you, blocking out the cold and the noise and the world outside. Inside, it's quiet. Emma's breathing, slow and steady, the fire crackling. Your mother moving around the room, tidying things that don't really need tidying. There's some bread left, she says, and Mrs. Murphy gave us some dripping. It's not much, but it's fine. It's good. You sit by the fire and eat. The bread is hard, the dripping cold, but your mother is right. It's fine. It's good. It's more than some people have tonight. The fire throws shadows on the walls, dancing shapes that shift and change, never staying still. You watch them move and let your thoughts drift. Tomorrow is Boxing Day. You've heard about Boxing Day the way you've heard about a lot of things rich people do. It's the day when the wealthy open their doors and give boxes to their servants, small gifts, coins, leftover food from the Christmas feast, a thank you for a year of service before sending them home to celebrate with their own families. Your mother used to work for a wealthy family before she married your father, before everything. She's told you about Boxing Day, about standing in line with the other servants, waiting to receive her Christmas box from the master's wife, about the coins inside, enough to buy something special, something just for herself, about feeling, just for a moment, like she mattered. She doesn't work for wealthy families anymore. The laundry doesn't give Christmas boxes. There's no line to stand in, no master's wife with her beneficent smile. But maybe tomorrow will bring something anyway. A few extra pennies from sweeping if the streets are busy. A bit of charity from someone feeling generous. The leftovers from wealthy tables distributed to the poor by churches and do-gooders who want to feel like they're making a difference. You'll take whatever comes. For now, though, there's this, the fire, the bread, your mother and your sister, safe and warm and together. The candle in the window burns steadily. Outside, the city settles into night. The sounds fade. The last of the daylight disappears. London wraps itself in darkness and cold and fog, and somewhere out there, in houses you'll never enter, families are sitting down to their Christmas dinners. Goose and turkey and plum pudding, wine in crystal glasses, laughter and warmth and all the things that money can buy. But here, in this room, there's light too. A different kind of light, the kind that comes from people holding on to each other. Your mother sits down beside you. She doesn't say anything, just sits, her hands folded in her lap, watching the fire. After a while she starts to hum. It's a carol, an old one of the songs the Victorians revived and made popular again. God rest ye merry gentlemen. The tune drifts through the room, soft and low, mixing with the crackle of the fire and the sound of Emma's breathing. You lean against your mother's shoulder and close your eyes. Christmas Day is ending. Tomorrow will bring whatever it brings, more cold, more hunger, more struggle, but that's tomorrow. Right now there's just this moment, this warmth, this music, this family, and for now that's enough. The candle flickers, the fire dies down to embers, and somewhere in the distance, so faint you might be imagining it, church bells ring out the hour. Christmas is over, but you're still here, still alive, still together. And in this city, in this time, that's the only miracle that matters. Boxing Day arrives with rain, not the gentle kind, the hard, cold, slanting kind that finds its way through every gap in your clothing, that turns the streets into rivers of mud and muck, that makes you wonder why you ever left the warmth of your mattress. But you did leave. You're out here now, broom in hand, working your corner while the city wakes up around you. The rain has changed everything. Yesterday's snow is gone, washed away overnight, replaced by puddles that splash up whenever a carriage passes. The crossing is worse than usual, thick with horse manure that the rain has turned into a brown soup. You sweep and sweep, but it doesn't seem to make much difference. The mud just fills back in behind your broom. Still, people need to cross. A gentleman approaches, picks his way carefully to the edge of the crossing, looks down at the mess with obvious distaste. You've cleared a path, mostly. It's the best you can do. Morning, sir. Watch your step there. He grunts, doesn't look at you, crosses quickly with his coat pulled up around his chin. Doesn't leave anything. That's fine. That's normal. Most people don't. You've learned not to expect it. The morning passes slowly. The streets are quieter than usual, even for the day after Christmas. Most people are staying inside, keeping dry, nursing their full bellies and their holiday cheer. The rich are probably still asleep, recovering from yesterday's feasting. The poor are stretching out the last of their Christmas provisions, making them last as long as possible before reality comes crashing back. You've made threepence by mid-morning. Not good, but not terrible either. Enough to justify being out here in the wet. Around 11, you notice something. Down the street, in front of one of the nicer houses, there's a line forming. Not customers at a shop, not beggars at a church. Something else. People in neat clothing, standing patiently in the rain, waiting for the door to open. Servants, you lean on your broom and watch. The door opens. A woman appears, middle-aged, dressed in black with a white cap on her head. She's carrying something, a wooden box about the size of a loaf of bread with a handle on top. She hands it to the first person in line, a young man in livery, and says something you can't hear. He bows, takes the box, and walks away with it tucked under his arm like it contains treasure. Because it does, in a way. Boxing Day, the day when masters finally give something back to the people who serve them all year. Small boxes filled with coins and leftover food, a thank you and a goodbye, sending the servants home to celebrate with their own families. Your mother told you about this back when she used to work in service. She said it was the best day of the year, better even than Christmas itself, because on Christmas you worked, you cooked and cleaned and served while the family enjoyed themselves. But on Boxing Day, you finally got your reward. The line moves slowly. One by one, the servants receive their boxes. Some of them are smiling. Others look tired, worn out from the holiday rush. A few are crying, though whether from happiness or something else you can't tell. One of them breaks away from the group and heads toward your crossing. She's young. Maybe 16 or 17, with red hair tucked under a plain cap and a face full of freckles. Her dress is simple but clean, much nicer than anything your mother owns. She's carrying her box in both hands, cradling it like a baby. She reaches the edge of the crossing and stops. "Is it safe to pass?" "Safe enough, miss. Just swept it." She looks down at the mud, then at her shoes. They're good shoes, not fancy, but solid, the kind of shoes that cost real money. "I don't want to ruin them," she says, more to herself than to you. "Took me 6 months to save for these." 6 months. You think about what you make in a week, in a month, how long it would take you to save for shoes like that. Years, probably, if you ever could at all. "I can help you across if you want. Got some boards here." You do, actually. Scraps of wood you've collected over the months, useful for laying over the worst of the mud. When the crossing gets really bad, you grab one now, lay it across the deepest puddle. There, step on that, then on the dry bit there, then one more jump, and you're across. She looks at you, really looks at you, for the first time. Taking in your ragged clothes, your muddy hands, your face that probably hasn't been properly washed in days. "Thank you," she says, and she means it. You can hear it in her voice. She crosses carefully, following your instructions, keeping her precious shoes out of the worst of it. When she reaches the other side, she stops again. "What's your name?" "William. I'm Mary." She shifts the box in her arms, and for a moment you think she's going to open it, take something out, but she doesn't. Instead, she reaches into her pocket and pulls out a coin. "Here, for helping me across." You look at the coin in her palm. It's a sixpence. A sixpence, more than you usually make in an entire day. "Miss, that's too much. I can't take it." She presses it into your hand. "It's Boxing Day. Everyone deserves something on Boxing Day." Before you can say anything else, she's gone. Walking quickly down the street, her box clutched to her chest, disappearing into the rain. You stand there for a long moment, the sixpence cold and heavy in your palm. A servant, someone who works 14 hours a day, who gets 1 day off a year, who just received her own Christmas box after a year of labour, and the first thing she does with her freedom, the first thing she does when she finally has something of her own, is give part of it to a crossing sweeper she's never met. You put the coin in your pocket with the others, 9p now, plus the sixpence makes 15p, 1 shilling and 3p if you count it properly, an actual fortune. The rain keeps falling. You go back to sweeping, but your heart isn't in it anymore. You keep thinking about Mary, about her red hair and her freckled face and the way she said everyone deserves something, about the box she was carrying, full of whatever the mistress had given her. Coins, probably. Maybe some leftover food from the Christmas feast. Turkey bones with a bit of meat still on them. The end of a plum pudding. Rich people's scraps, but scraps that would feed a family for days. Servants live in a strange world, above the poor, below the wealthy, stuck in the middle where they can see both sides but belong to neither. They sleep in grand houses but don't own them. They eat good food but only the leftovers. They wear nice clothes but only because their masters want them to look respectable. And once a year, on Boxing Day, they get to pretend they're part of the family. They get their boxes, their thank yous, their little taste of what it might feel like to be valued. Then they go home to their own families, their own cramped rooms and struggling relatives, and they share what they've been given. It's better than being a crossing sweeper, but it's not freedom. Nothing is, really. Not for people like you. The afternoon comes slowly. The rain lets up around 2 o'clock, fading to a drizzle and then to nothing. The streets start to fill again. People emerge from their houses, blinking in the pale light, ready to face whatever comes next. You've made 1 shilling and 7 pence by now, an incredible amount, the best you've ever done in your life. Part of you wants to keep going, to see how high you can push it. Part of you wants to go home, to give the money to your mother, to see her face when she realizes how much you've brought in. You stay a little longer. A carriage pulls up near your corner, not one of the fancy ones with the matched horses and the painted doors, a plain black carriage, the kind wealthy people use when they don't want to be noticed. The door opens and a man steps out. He's older, maybe 50 or 60, with a white beard and a heavy coat. He looks like a banker or a solicitor, someone important, someone who usually wouldn't even notice a boy like you, but he notices you now. You there, boy, you straighten up. Yes, sir. He crosses to where you're standing, stepping carefully over the mud you've cleared. He's looking at you with an expression you can't quite read. Not disgust, not pity, something else. How long have you been out here? Since dawn, sir. In this weather? Yes, sir. It's my corner. He nods slowly, like this confirms something he was already thinking. Then he reaches into his coat and pulls out his wallet. Your heart speeds up. Tips from wealthy men are rare, but when they come, they're usually good. He pulls out a coin, holds it up so you can see it. It's gold, shining gold, even in the grey light of the winter afternoon. A sovereign, 20 shillings, a whole pound. More money than you've ever seen in one place, more than your mother makes in a month. This is for you, he says, on one condition. Sir, go home. Get warm. Spend the rest of the day with your family. He presses the coin into your hand. It's Boxing Day. Even crossing sweepers deserve a holiday. You stare at the sovereign. You can't speak. You can't even breathe properly. Go on then. He's already turning away, heading back to his carriage. And happy Christmas, boy. Happy Christmas, sir, you manage. Thank you. Thank you so much. He doesn't look back. The carriage door closes and the horses start moving, and just like that, he's gone. A stranger who gave you more than you've ever had, and you don't even know his name. You look down at the coin in your hand. A sovereign, £1, enough to pay the rent for weeks, enough to buy food, coal, clothes, enough to keep the workhouse away for months. Your hands are shaking. You pack up your broom in a daze. Tuck it under your arm, start walking home. The streets blur around you. You're not really seeing them. You're not really seeing anything. Just the gold coin in your hand, the weight of it, the promise of it. 1 shilling and 7 pence from sweeping, plus the sovereign, £1, 1 shilling and 7 pence. You've never been rich before. You're not rich now, not really, but you've got more money than you've ever held in your life, and you don't know what to do with the feeling that's bubbling up in your chest. Hope. That's what it is. Hope. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, things might get better, that the workhouse isn't inevitable, that your family might survive this winter, might make it to spring, might have a chance at something more than just scraping by. One good day doesn't change everything. You know that. The money will run out, the cold will come back, the struggle will continue, but right now, walking home through the wet streets of London with a sovereign in your pocket, you let yourself believe, just for today, just for this moment. Tomorrow will bring what it brings, but today, for the first time in as long as you can remember, tomorrow doesn't seem quite so frightening. The rookeries appear ahead. The same tired buildings, the same black bricks, the same broken windows patched with paper, but something is different. You're different. You're walking taller, moving faster, feeling something you'd almost forgotten how to feel. Your mother is going to cry when she sees what you've brought home. Happy tears for once. You climb the stairs 2 at a time. The door to your room is ajar. You can hear voices inside, your mother's voice and someone else, Mrs. Hennessy maybe, or one of the other women from the building. You push the door open. Your mother is sitting by the window, Emma on her lap. Mrs. Hennessy is there too, perched on the edge of the mattress, talking in that rapid-fire way she has when she's excited about something. And I told her, I said, there's no way that's real mutton, not for that price. But she swore up and down. She stops when she sees you. They all stop. William, your mother's face changes. She's looking at you the way she does when she's trying to figure out if something's wrong. You're home early. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. You cross the room, kneel down beside her. Better than fine. You pull the coins from your pocket, all of them, the pennies and halfpennies from the morning's sweeping, the sixpence from Mary, and the sovereign, last of all, placed carefully in your mother's palm like it might break if you're not gentle enough. She stares at it. William, what? Where did you... A man gave it to me. A wealthy man. He told me to go home and spend Boxing Day with my family. She's crying now. You knew she would be. The tears are streaming down her face, and she's making no effort to wipe them away. Mrs. Hennessy has gone very quiet, her mouth hanging open. A sovereign, your mother whispers. William, this is a whole pound. I know. We can pay the rent. We can buy coal. We can... She stops, overwhelmed, pulls you into a hug so tight you can barely breathe. My boy, my good, good boy. Emma doesn't understand what's happening, but she knows it's something good. She squirms between you, trying to be part of the hug, her little arms wrapping around whatever parts of you and your mother she can reach. Mrs. Hennessy clears her throat. I'll leave you lot to it, she says, and there's a thickness in her voice that wasn't there before. Happy Boxing Day. Happy Boxing Day, Mrs. Hennessy. She slips out, closing the door behind her, and then it's just the three of you, huddled together in the thin afternoon light, holding on to each other and this impossible gift. Your mother pulls back eventually, wipes her eyes with the back of her hand, looks at the sovereign again, like she still can't quite believe it's real. We need to be careful with this, she says. Make it last. If we're smart about it. I know, Mum. A shilling a week for rent, a few pennies for coal. We could stretch this for months, William. Months. Months without worrying about where the next meal is coming from. Months without lying awake at night, doing the math in your head, wondering if you'll make it to spring. Months of something that almost feels like security. It won't last forever. Nothing does. But it's a gift of time, and time is something you can use. There's more, you say. A girl at the crossing, a servant. She gave me sixpence just for helping her across the mud. Your mother laughs. It's a real laugh, full and warm, the kind you haven't heard in a long time. A sixpence for a crossing? She said everyone deserves something on Boxing Day. Smart girl. Your mother tucks the coins away, all of them, in the tin box under the floorboard, the box that was almost empty yesterday, the box that now holds more than it's held in months. Maybe there's hope for this city after all. Emma has gotten bored with the hugging. She's wandered over to the window, looking out at the grey afternoon. Is it still raining? No, sweetheart, the rain's stopped. Can we go outside? I want to see the puddles. Your mother looks at you. You look back at her, and something passes between you, some shared understanding, some agreement that today is different, today is special, today you can say yes to things you'd normally say no to. Let's all go, your mother says. Get some air. Walk around a bit. Really? Really? It's Boxing Day. Everyone deserves a holiday. You bundle up as best you can. There aren't enough warm clothes to go around, there never are, but you layer what you have and hope it's enough. Emma is practically bouncing with excitement. She doesn't get to go outside often, not with your mother, not all together as a family. The streets are different when you're not working them. You walk through the rookeries, past the familiar buildings and the familiar faces, past Mrs. Flanagan's courtyard, where the ribbon from yesterday is still hanging, limp and faded in the damp air, past the church where you sang carols just yesterday morning, past all the places that make up your world. Your mother walks slowly, taking it all in. She's not rushing anywhere, not hurrying to the laundry or the market or wherever else her work usually takes her. She's just walking, being present, enjoying the moment. "Look," Emma says, pointing. "A cat. There's a tabby sitting on a windowsill, watching the street with the lazy attention cats always seem to have." Emma waves at it. The cat doesn't wave back, being a cat, but Emma seems satisfied anyway. "I want a cat," she announces. "Maybe someday, sweetheart." "When?" "When we have somewhere better to live, somewhere with a bit more room." Emma considers this. "Okay, but soon." Your mother smiles. "We'll see." You walk for an hour, maybe more, through the rookeries and out the other side, into streets that are slightly less cramped, slightly less desperate. The rain hasn't started again, though the sky is still heavy with clouds. The air smells clean, washed by the morning's downpour. When you finally head back home, the light is starting to fade. Tomorrow, everything goes back to normal. Your mother will return to the laundry. You'll return to your corner. The struggle will continue, the same as it always has, but something has changed. You don't know how to describe it exactly. It's not just the money, though the money helps. It's something else, something about the way Mary pressed that sixpence into your hand, something about the stranger with the sovereign and his gruff instruction to spend the day with your family. Something about Mrs. Flanagan and her shared meal, about the candles in every window, about all the small kindnesses that added up to something bigger. The world is hard. You know that. The world is cold and cruel and doesn't care whether you live or die, but there are people in it who do care. People who share what they have, even when they don't have much. People who stop to help a stranger cross a muddy street. People who give away their Christmas boxes, their spare coins, their time and their attention, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the whole point of Christmas when you get down to it. Not the trees and the cards and the presents, not the goose or the turkey or the plum pudding, just people looking out for each other, just kindness passed from hand to hand, keeping the darkness at bay. You climb the stairs to your room. The fire has gone out while you were away, but there's coal to relight it now. Your mother gets it going while you and Emma settle onto the mattress. "Tell me a story," Emma says. "What kind of story?" "A good one, with a happy ending." You think for a moment, then you start talking, making it up as you go. A story about a boy who finds a magic coin that grants wishes. It's silly, the kind of nonsense you used to hear from your father, but Emma loves it. She laughs at all the right parts, gasps at the scary bits, claps when the boy finally makes his wish and everything turns out okay. Your mother listens too, smiling quietly as she tends the fire. Outside, the night settles over London. Boxing Day is ending. The servants have gone home to their families. The wealthy have finished with their charity for another year. The streets are quiet, the city at rest. And in a small room in the East End, a family sits together by a fire they can finally afford to keep burning, telling stories and holding on to each other, grateful for one more day. One more day together. That's all any of us really get in the end. One day at a time. The days blur together after that. December 27th, 28th, 29th, the calendar keeps turning, dragging you toward a new year whether you're ready for it or not. You go back to your corner. The rain stops, then starts again, then turns to sleet that stings your face like tiny needles. The streets fill up with people returning to their normal lives, the brief magic of Christmas already fading in their eyes. The wealthy go back to their business, the poor go back to their survival, and you stand at your crossing with your broom, sweeping the same mud, collecting the same pennies, living the same life you've always lived. But something is different. The worry is quieter now, that constant hum in the back of your mind, the one that calculates every penny and panics at every unexpected expense, has faded to a murmur. You still hear it, but it doesn't scream anymore. The sovereign is in the tin box under the floorboard, and your mother is rationing it carefully, paying the rent a week at a time, buying coal in small amounts, stretching it as far as it will go. There's food every day now. Not much, not fancy, but something. Bread and cheese, a bit of bacon when it's on sale, potatoes that your mother fries in dripping until they're crispy on the outside and soft in the middle. Emma has stopped asking if she can have more, because there actually is more, for once. The colour is coming back to her cheeks. You notice it on the 29th when you come home from sweeping and find her playing on the floor with a rag doll Mrs. Hennessy gave her. Her face isn't quite so pale anymore. The shadows under her eyes are lighter. She's not coughing as much. She's gaining weight, your mother says quietly, watching Emma from across the room. I can feel it when I pick her up. That's good. It's more than good. It's... She stops, shakes her head. I was so scared, William, before the money. I was so scared we were going to lose her. You don't say anything. You were scared too. You still are in some ways. One sovereign doesn't change the world. It doesn't cure diseases or fix the leaking roof or make the winters any shorter, but it buys time. And time, as it turns out, can buy a lot of other things. Like hope, like strength, like the chance for a little girl's body to fight back against the cold. You remember last winter, Emma caught something, a fever that wouldn't break, and she lay on the mattress for 3 days, burning and shivering and crying out in her sleep. Your mother stayed up with her all night, every night, pressing cool rags to her forehead and praying to anyone who might be listening. The doctor wouldn't come without payment up front, and you didn't have the money, so you just waited and hoped. She pulled through. Barely, but the cough lingered for months afterward, and every time she started hacking, your heart would clench with the fear that it was coming back. This winter is different. The room is warmer. The food is more regular. Emma's body is stronger because it has what it needs to be strong. You can see it in the way she moves, the energy she has, the brightness in her eyes. One sovereign didn't just buy coal and rent. It bought your sister's health, maybe her life. That's worth more than all the money in the world. December 30th comes with fog, not the light drifting kind that burns off by midday, the thick choking kind that turns the city into a ghost of itself, where you can barely see 10 feet ahead and the gas lamps look like floating orbs of light, disconnected from anything solid. The fog settles into the streets and stays there, wrapping everything in grey. Business is slow on days like this. People don't want to go out if they don't have to, and the ones who do go out are moving too fast to care about clean crossings. You make 4p by noon and decide that's enough, that you'd rather be home where it's warm than standing in the fog, waiting for coins that aren't coming. You take the long way back. Not through the wealthy neighbourhoods this time. You've seen enough of those. Instead, you walk through the parts of the East End you don't usually visit, the streets that are even poorer than yours, if that's possible, the places where the buildings lean so far they almost touch overhead, where the windows are just holes covered with rags, where the children in the gutters look at you with eyes that have already given up. There but for the grace of God. That's what your mother says sometimes when she talks about the people worse off than you. There but for the grace of God go we. It used to sound like empty words, a thing people say to make themselves feel better about not helping. But walking through these streets, seeing these faces, you start to understand what she means. You could be them. You almost were them before the sovereign. One bad winter, one missed rent payment, one stroke of terrible luck, and you'd be right there with them, sleeping in doorways, begging for scraps, watching your family fall apart. The line between surviving and not surviving is so thin, so fragile. Most people don't realise that until they're standing right on it. You find Peter on a corner near the docks. He's not sweeping, he's just standing there, hands in his pockets, watching the ships in the fog, or trying to watch them anyway. You can barely see the masts through all the grey. "All right, Peter?" He turns, grins when he sees you. "William, thought you'd forgotten about me. Been busy, Christmas and all." "Yeah." His grin fades a little. "How was yours? You eat the orange?" "We ate it. It was good." You stand beside him, looking out at the invisible river. "What are you doing here?" Nothing. Just thinking, I guess." He kicks at a loose cobblestone. "My nan died." The words hang there, flat and heavy. "Peter, I'm sorry. It's all right. She was old. She'd been sick for a while." He shrugs, but the shrug is too careful, too controlled. "She went on Christmas night while we were all asleep. My mum found her in the morning." You don't know what to say. There's nothing to say, really. Death is common in the rookeries. People die all the time from disease and cold and hunger and 100 other things that shouldn't be able to kill anyone but do anyway. You've been to more funerals than you can count. But Peter's nan was a real person, someone who dragged him to church on Christmas morning, someone who worried about his soul. "She's better off," Peter says, and you can tell he's trying to convince himself. No more pain, no more worrying about where the next meal's coming from. She's with God now, isn't she? That's what the vicar says, I suppose. You don't believe that. It's not a question. Peter knows you well enough to read your face, even in the fog. "I don't know what I believe," you admit. "I want to believe it, that there's something after, that it's not just nothing." "Me too." Peter is quiet for a long moment. Then he laughs, a short, sharp sound that doesn't have much humour in it. "Listen to us, talking about death like a couple of old men. We're 9, William. We're supposed to be playing games and getting into trouble. We are in trouble. We were born in trouble." "True enough." He looks at you sideways. "Hear about the Salvation Army?" "The what?" Salvation Army. They're these religious folks, been going around giving out food and clothes to people who need it. Set up a soup kitchen over on Mile End Road. My mum took us yesterday. The soup was watery as hell, but it was hot, and they gave us bread too. That's good. Yeah. They're all right, I think. Better than the workhouse anyway. At least they don't split up families. The workhouse. The word still makes your stomach clench, even with the sovereign in the tin box. The workhouse is always there, waiting in the shadows, ready to swallow anyone who falls too far. "I should go," you say. "My mum's expecting me." "Yeah, me too." Peter pushes off from the wall he's been leaning on. "Happy New Year, William. Almost forgot. Tomorrow's the last day of 1850. Happy New Year, Peter." You walk home through the fog. Your mother is cooking when you arrive. Actual cooking, not just warming up scraps. She's got a small pot on the fire, something bubbling inside that smells like vegetables and meat. "Stew," she says when she sees you looking. "Mrs. Murphy had some bones left over from her Christmas ham. Gave them to me for the marrow. I added potatoes and carrots and whatever else I could find. It smells amazing. It'll be ready in an hour." She wipes her hands on her apron. "How was your day?" "Slow. Made 4pence. You sit down on the mattress, suddenly tired. Saw Peter. His grandmother died on Christmas night. Your mother's face softens. Poor boy, poor family. She was a good woman, Mrs. Gallagher. Strict, but good. Peter seemed okay. I don't know if he really is, though. People grieve in their own ways. Your mother comes over, sits beside you. Some cry, some go quiet, some act like nothing's wrong until they're alone, and then they fall apart. Which one are you? She looks at you for a long moment. I'm the third kind, I think. When your father died, I held it together for weeks. For you and Emma. I couldn't fall apart when you needed me, but at night, when you were both asleep, I'd lie there in the dark and cry until I couldn't breathe. You remember those nights, the sounds she thought you couldn't hear, the way her eyes were red in the mornings, even though she never said why. I'm sorry, Mum. Don't be sorry. It's just how it is. She puts her arm around you, pulls you close. We survive, William. That's what we do. We survive and we keep going and we hold on to the people we love as long as we can. And when we lose them, we grieve and then we keep going anyway, because that's all there is. Emma looks up from her rag doll. What are you talking about? Nothing, sweetheart. Grown-up things. I'm almost grown up. I'm 6. Your mother laughs. You are. You're very grown up for 6. The most grown-up 6-year-old in all of London. Emma nods seriously, accepting this as fact, and goes back to her doll. The stew is ready around 5 o'clock. You eat it slowly, savouring every bite. The broth is thin but flavourful, the vegetables soft, the bits of meat that Mrs. Murphy's bones yielded tender and rich. It's not much, but it's warm, and it fills your belly, and you eat it with people you love. That counts for something. December 31st, the last day of 1850. Tomorrow will be a new year, a fresh start, or so people like to pretend. In reality, nothing will change. January 1st will look exactly like December 31st. Same cold, same struggle, same endless fight to survive. But people need their rituals. They need to believe that turning a page on the calendar means something. You work your corner in the morning, make 6pence and come home early. The city is restless, people preparing for the New Year's celebrations, buying provisions, making plans. The wealthy will have parties, the poor will have whatever they can scrape together. Your family will have each other. The evening comes slowly. You sit by the fire with your mother and Emma, watching the flames and waiting for midnight. Emma falls asleep around 9, curled up on the mattress with her doll clutched to her chest. Your mother covers her with the blanket and comes to sit beside you. Almost there, she says quietly. A new year? Do you think it'll be better? 1851? I don't know. I hope so. She stares into the fire. There's a big exhibition coming, the Crystal Palace they're calling it, supposed to be the greatest thing the world has ever seen. People are coming from everywhere to see it. What is it? A building made of glass. Can you imagine? An entire palace made of nothing but glass and iron. They're putting it in Hyde Park, filling it with inventions and art and things from all over the empire. You try to imagine it, a palace made of glass, glittering in the sun, full of marvels from around the world. It sounds like something from a fairy tale, something that couldn't possibly exist in the same city where people starve in the streets and children sweep horse manure for pennies. But that's London, isn't it? A city of contradictions. The richest and the poorest, living side by side, barely seeing each other. Glass palaces and crumbling rookeries, mechanical birds and rag dolls. Maybe we can see it, you say, the exhibition, when it opens. Maybe. Your mother smiles, but it's a tired smile. It'll probably cost money to get in. We'll save up, like the Goose Club families. A penny at a time, a penny at a time. She laughs softly. When did you get so wise, William? I'm not wise, I'm just paying attention, I guess. The fire crackles. Outside, you can hear the sounds of the city muffled by the walls and the fog. People celebrating, people shouting. Somewhere church bells are starting to ring, counting down the last minutes of the year. Your mother takes your hand. Whatever happens, she says, whatever 1851 brings, we'll face it together. The three of us. That's what matters. Not the money, not the food, not even staying out of the workhouse, just being together, holding on. I know, Mum. I'm proud of you, William. You know that, don't you? Your father would be proud too. The way you work, the way you take care of your sister. You're a good boy, the best. You don't know what to say, so you just squeeze her hand and lean against her shoulder, the way you used to when you were small. The bells get louder. Midnight approaches. You can hear people in the street below shouting and laughing, counting down the seconds. Someone is banging a pot with a spoon, making a terrible racket that echoes off the buildings. A baby starts crying somewhere in the building, woken by all the noise, and you can hear its mother shushing it, trying to get it back to sleep. 10, 9, 8. The voices drift up through the thin walls. Your mother squeezes your hand tighter. 7, 6, 5. Emma stirs on the mattress but doesn't wake. Her breathing stays slow and steady, undisturbed by the chaos outside. 4, 3, 2. You close your eyes. 1. Happy New Year. The bells explode. Not just one church, but all of them. Every bell in London ringing at once, filling the night with sound. People are cheering, singing, probably dancing in the streets despite the cold. Fireworks go off somewhere in the distance, bright pops of colour that you can't see from here but can hear, like thunder without the storm. 1851, a new year, a new beginning, or at least that's what people like to believe. Your mother leans over and kisses your forehead. Happy New Year, William. Happy New Year, Mum. The bells keep ringing. The cheering gradually fades as people head back inside, back to their fires and their beds, ready to sleep off the celebration and wake up to a world that looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. But you stay awake a little longer. Sitting by the dying fire, listening to your sister breathe, thinking about everything that's happened, the Christmas markets with their sights and sounds, the Goose Club families clutching their birds, the wealthy houses with their trees and their toys, Mrs. Flanagan's shared meal, the stranger with the sovereign, Mary with her sixpence and her freckled face. So many moments, so many people, so many small kindnesses and tiny miracles, adding up to something bigger than any of them alone. You learned something this Christmas, something you couldn't have put into words before, but can feel now, sitting here in the quiet dark. The world is hard. It will always be hard. There will always be cold and hunger and fear. There will always be people who have too much and people who have nothing. There will always be workhouses waiting in the shadows, ready to swallow anyone who stumbles. But there will also always be people who care, people who share what they have, people who put candles in their windows and food on communal tables, people who stop to help a stranger across a muddy street. And maybe that's the whole point of Christmas when you get down to it. Not the trees and the cards and the presents, not the goose or the turkey or the plum pudding, just people looking out for each other. Just kindness passed from hand to hand, keeping the darkness at bay. The fire crumbles into embers. You should go to sleep. Tomorrow will bring work and worry and all the ordinary struggles of ordinary life. But you sit here a moment longer, holding on to this feeling, this warmth, this quiet peace. And somewhere in the darkness, 1850 dies, and 1851 is born. And the world keeps turning, and your family keeps holding on, just like they always have, just like they always will. January arrives quietly. No fanfare, no celebration, just another grey morning, another cold room, another day of survival in a city that never stops moving. The bells have stopped ringing, the fireworks have faded to memory, and 1851 looks exactly like 1850 did. Same streets, same struggles, same life. But you're different now. Something shifted during those few days between Christmas Eve and New Year's. You can feel it in your chest, a small but steady warmth that wasn't there before. Not hope, exactly. Something quieter than hope. Something more like understanding. You understand now what Christmas means, not the wealthy version with its trees and toys and tables groaning with food. The other version, the one that happens in cramped rooms and crowded courtyards, the one that's made of shared bread and borrowed coal and songs, sung by people who have nothing but their voices. That's the real Christmas, the one that matters. The first week of January passes in a blur of work and cold and the slow, steady rhythm of ordinary life. You sweep your corner, your mother washes clothes, Emma plays with her rag doll and asks questions about everything she sees. The sovereign in the tin box shrinks coin by coin as rent comes due and food needs buying, but it shrinks slower than you expected. Your mother is careful. She counts every penny, plans every meal, makes the money stretch in ways you didn't know were possible. By the end of the first week, you've paid the rent for January and still have 12 shillings left. 12 shillings, 3 weeks of cushion, maybe 4 if you're lucky. Enough to breathe, enough to stop panicking every time you hear the landlord's footsteps on the stairs. It won't last forever. You know that. Spring is still months away and winter has barely begun to show its teeth. There will be harder days ahead, colder nights, moments when the money runs out and the fear comes back, but not today. Today there's food in your belly and coal in the grate and your family is together. Today is enough. You think about your father sometimes. Not as much as you used to. The first year after he died, you thought about him constantly. Every morning when you woke up, every night when you went to sleep, every time something happened that you wanted to tell him about. The grief was a physical thing, a weight on your chest that made it hard to breathe. Now the grief has settled into something gentler, not gone, just different. You still miss him. You'll always miss him, but the missing doesn't hurt the way it used to. It's become part of who you are, woven into the fabric of your days, a sadness that sits alongside everything else instead of overwhelming it. Your mother says that's how grief works. It doesn't get smaller, she says. You just get bigger around it. You grow until you can carry it without being crushed. You think she's right. January 10th is your birthday. You turn 10 years old, though nobody makes a fuss about it. Birthdays aren't really celebrated in the rookeries, not the way they are in wealthy houses with their cakes and presents and parties. Your mother wishes you a happy birthday and gives you an extra helping of porridge. Emma draws you a picture with a bit of charcoal on a scrap of paper. A wobbly figure that's supposed to be you, holding a broom and smiling. It's the best present you've ever received. You keep it in your pocket for days, taking it out to look at whenever you need reminding that someone loves you. The charcoal smudges and fades, but you can still make out the shape of it. A boy with a broom, a smile, your sister's love, captured in clumsy lines. That's worth more than any toy from a shop window. The weeks pass. January bleeds into February. The weather gets worse before it gets better. A stretch of days so cold that the Thames itself starts to freeze, ice forming along the edges, creeping out toward the middle. People talk about the old days, the frost fairs they used to hold on the frozen river with tents and bonfires and whole oxen roasted on the ice. That doesn't happen anymore. The river doesn't freeze solid like it used to. But the cold is still there, biting and brutal, and people die from it every night. You don't die, You come close a few times. There's a week in late January when the coal runs out and you can't afford more, and the three of you huddle together on the mattress, wrapped in every piece of cloth you own, shivering through nights that feel like they'll never end. Emma gets sick again. A cough that sounds like it's tearing her lungs apart, and your mother sits up with her all night, every night, just like she did last year. But Emma pulls through. She always pulls through. She's tougher than she looks, your little sister, tougher than most people twice her age. The neighbours help when they can. Mrs. Hennessy brings soup one night, watery but hot. The O'Connells share a bit of their coal when theirs runs out. Old Mrs. Patterson, who barely has anything herself, knocks on your door one morning with a scarf she knitted, says Emma needs it more than she does. That's how it works in the rookeries. People look out for each other. They share what they have, even when what they have is almost nothing, because they know that next week, next month, next year, they might be the ones who need help. And when that day comes, they'll need someone to knock on their door with soup and coal and scarves. It's not charity, it's survival. By the time February ends, the worst is over. The days are getting longer. The cold is losing its edge. You can feel spring coming, that faint promise of warmth that makes everything seem possible again. The sovereign is gone by now, spent down to nothing, every last penny used up on rent and food and coal. But you made it. 3 months of winter, the hardest 3 months, and you made it through. That counts for something. March brings news of the Crystal Palace. Everyone's talking about it. The great exhibition, the wonder of the age, the glass building in Hyde Park that's supposed to show the world everything Britain can do. They're putting the finishing touches on it now, getting ready for the grand opening in May. People are coming from everywhere to see it, from every corner of the empire, from countries you've never heard of. You probably won't see it yourself. The admission price is more than you can afford. And anyway, boys like you don't belong in places like that. The Crystal Palace is for the wealthy, for the respectable, for people who wear clean clothes and have clean faces and don't smell of horse manure and sweat. But you like to imagine it. A palace made of glass, sunlight streaming through the walls, making everything glow, trees growing inside, actual trees, under a roof of crystal, inventions from around the world, machines that do impossible things, art that makes people weep with its beauty, marvels. That's what they call them, the marvels of the age. You heard someone say the other day that the Crystal Palace is supposed to show the world what Britain has achieved, the empire at its height, the workshop of the world, all the things this country makes and builds and invents, gathered together under one glass roof. But you can't help thinking there's something missing from that picture. The Crystal Palace won't show the rookeries, won't show the crossing sweepers and the laundresses and the children picking through mud for scraps, won't show the workhouses or the slums or the cold grey streets where people like you struggle just to stay alive. That's part of Britain too, isn't it? That's part of what the empire has achieved. But nobody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to put poverty on display next to the steam engines and the silk dresses, so they won't. They'll show the world the glittering surface, and everyone will nod and smile and pretend that's all there is. You're not bitter about it. Not really. That's just how things work. The rich show off their riches, and the poor stay out of sight. Maybe someday things will be different. Maybe someday there'll be a great exhibition of how the other half lives, a palace filled with the small miracles of survival, the shared bread, the borrowed coal, the candles in windows, the kindness that passes from hand to hand in the dark, places the gas lamps don't reach. But probably not. Maybe someday you'll see the real Crystal Palace yourself. Maybe someday you'll have enough money to buy a ticket, enough time to stand in line, enough courage to walk into a building where you don't belong and look at all the wonders the world has to offer. Maybe someday. For now, you have other things to worry about. Spring means more people on the streets. More people means more crossings to sweep, more pennies to collect, more money coming in. Your mother takes on extra work at the laundry, washing the heavy winter clothes people are putting away, preparing the lighter fabrics for the warmer months. Emma is healthy again, running around the room with her rag doll, asking when she can go outside and see the flowers. Life goes on. That's the thing about survival. It's not a story with a beginning, middle and end. It's just life. Day after day after day. The same struggles, the same joys, the same endless cycle of waking and working and sleeping and starting over again. Some days are better than others. Some days you find a sixpence in the gutter, or a wealthy gentleman tips you a shilling, or your mother comes home with a bit of cake that someone gave her, and for a few hours everything feels possible. Other days are harder, days when the rain won't stop, when the customers won't come, when Emma's cough comes back and your mother's face goes tight with worry. But you keep going. That's what you do. You keep going, one day at a time, one penny at a time, one breath at a time, because that's what the people in this city have always done. That's what Christmas taught you, really. Not the carols or the cards or the decorated trees, not the goose or the turkey or the presents wrapped in paper. Those things are nice. Those things matter to the people who have them. But they're not what Christmas is about. Christmas is about holding on. It's about Mrs. Flanagan and her shared meal, Mary and her sixpence, the stranger with the sovereign, Peter and his nan, your mother getting up every day to work herself to the bone so her children can eat, all those people, all those small acts of kindness, adding up to something bigger than any of them alone. That's the gift the Victorians gave the world, not the trappings of Christmas, the spirit of it. The understanding that we need each other, that survival isn't something you do alone, that the coldest nights are warmer when you share them with someone else. They took a quiet religious holiday and turned it into something bigger, something that mattered. They gave us the trees and the cards and the carols. They gave us the idea that Christmas should be a time when people come together, when families gather, when even the poorest deserve a moment of warmth and light. Before the Victorians, Christmas was fading. People barely celebrated it. But then came the writers and the reformers, the ones who saw the cold and the hunger and the suffering and decided to do something about it. They wrote stories about redemption and transformation. They organised charity drives and soup kitchens. They put candles in windows and shared what they had. They built Christmas as you know it. Not perfect, not fair, still too much for some and not enough for others, but something, a time when the world pauses just for a moment and remembers that kindness matters. That's the legacy. Not the goose or the turkey, not the presents under the tree, just the simple, stubborn belief that people should take care of each other. And now, as you lie here in the quiet dark, you carry that understanding with you. The room is still. Your mother is breathing softly beside you. Emma is curled against your chest, her small body warm and heavy with sleep. The fire has burned down to embers, casting a faint red glow across the walls. Outside, the city is settling into night. The fog is rolling in again, that famous London fog, wrapping everything in grey. The gas lamps are flickering, the carriages are rattling over the cobblestones, carrying people home, carrying people to parties and pubs and all the places people go when the day is done. Some were out there in the houses with the big windows. Wealthy families are sitting down to dinner, roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, wine in crystal glasses, children playing with toys you'll never own. But that's all right. You have this room, this fire, this family. Your mother stirs beside you, murmurs something in her sleep. Emma's hand tightens on your shirt, a reflex holding on even in dreams. The wind picks up outside. You can hear it whistling through the cracks in the walls, finding every gap, every weakness. But the blanket is warm around you. The bodies beside you are warm, and the cold can't reach you here. Not really, not in the ways that matter. You close your eyes. The sounds of the city fade, the fog settles, the night deepens, and somewhere in your chest that small, steady warmth is still there. Not hope, exactly. Something quieter than hope. Something that doesn't need a name. You're 9 years old. No, wait, 10 now. You turn 10 in January. You're 10 years old, and you've already learned something that some people never learn, no matter how long they live. The world is hard, but it's also full of kindness. The night is cold, but it's also full of warmth, and tomorrow will bring what it brings. More work, more worry, more struggle, but also more moments like this one, more quiet nights with the people you love, more chances to hold on. That's enough. That's more than enough. Your breathing slows, your thoughts drift, the edges of the world get soft and hazy, and as you sink into sleep you think you can hear something, faint and far away, almost like a memory. Carol singers maybe, or church bells, or just the wind making music as it moves through the streets. It doesn't matter what it is. It sounds like Christmas. It sounds like home. Sleep now. You've earned it. And when you wake, the sun will be rising over London, painting the rooftops gold, and a new day will be waiting. A new day. A new chance. A new year full of possibilities. But that's tomorrow. For now, just rest. Let the fire die down. Let the fog roll in. Let the city do whatever the city does when you're not watching. You're safe here. You're warm here. You're loved here. And that's all that matters. That's all that's ever mattered. Close your eyes, breathe, sleep. The story isn't over. It never really ends. But for tonight, for this moment, you can let it rest. You can let yourself rest. Good night, William. Good night, London. Good night, 1851. And good night to you, wherever you are, in whatever time you're listening from. May your bed be warm, may your worries be small. May you wake tomorrow knowing that the world, for all its hardness, is still full of kindness, still full of light, still full of people holding on to each other in the dark, just like they did in 1850, just like they do now, just like they always will. Sleep well.